Welcome to Cogeco 13's coverage of Queen's Golden Gaels football. Today, from Richardson Stadium, it's the Golden Gaels against the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks. Pre-game show is next.
This telecast of Queen's Golden Gaels football is sponsored by Cogeco. Cogeco, bringing you the best in local sports coverage.
You know, I don't know how you busy people do it. It takes a lot to stay fit. Commitment, discipline, spandex. Man down, you don't need a personal trainer to improve the life of a child. You've got all of the credentials and apparently the free time you need. So don't settle for the participation pin. Go for the award of excellence. Step up and call to become a big brother today.
Hello and welcome again to Cogeco 13's continuing coverage of Queen's Golden Gaels football. Today, a great matchup as the 4-1 Queen's Golden Gaels take on the 1-4 Laurier Golden Hawks. I'm Bill Miklas, along with me, Donnie Lewis, and James McLean, who will be calling the game. I'll be right down here on the sidelines, and I'll bring in Donnie Lewis first about these Laurier Golden Hawks. And Donnie, they're 1-4, but they're a far better 1-4 team than their record shows.
They've been in every single game this year, and even you go back to the game that they played last weekend against Mac. Mac has a touchdown just before halftime, extends the lead a little bit, but then Laurier managed to come back, and they stayed tough in the second half. In the first three losses this year, every single loss was by 3 points or less. So this team is certainly, as you said, Bill, much better than a 1-4 record. Now, they're fighting a little bit of adversity coming into this week's game. They're down to their third string starting quarterback. They've lost Ryan Peer 2 weeks ago. He ruptured both ligaments in his knee in the game against Toronto. Jamie Partington was the backup. He goes down with a knee injury last week against Toronto. So now it's Chris Adams, and then the backup is going to be the younger brother of Gaels, John Northcote. Will Northcote will be the backup quarterback. But for Laurier, it all starts with the rushing game, and that's where you're going to see big Derek Medler setting a Laurier school record 2 weeks ago in their big win against Toronto. Had about 180 yards last week against Mac, so that's going to be the key for them on offense, is can they get the rushing game going with Derek Medler.
Okay, and on the other side, James McLean, the Queen's Golden Gaels had no problem in our last broadcast with the Toronto Blues, much similar to the game 2 weeks ago for Laurier, where they had no problem with Toronto, but the Gaels came out healthy. They're relatively healthy.
Well, they're in great shape so far, and one of the major keys for them is going to be to maintain their health against a good athletic Laurier team, make sure they have their depth throughout the rest of the season. Coming into today, if they can maintain their offensive passing attack, that's where Queen's strength is. There's no one's going to deny that. Not a really strong running team in the conference, so that'll be the first key, is whether they can handle the weather conditions on offense. Windy day, we might get some rain. If they can handle that and continue to pass the ball effectively, high percentage. Tom Dennison with 108 quarterback player ranking, top in the conference. If they can keep that up, that'd be a big key. The second thing I think would be overall for the team is to handle the weather in general on special teams, on defense. You know, no one falls in their coverage. No fumbles on special teams. No fumbles on offense. Both teams have managed to keep down the turnovers, and for Queens, it's worked into victories. And the last point that I'd like to make is the ground game. If Queens come into this game, they're now facing teams that want to eliminate their passing games. You know, particularly the vertical game, which they do really well with their deep receiving core. So if they can, Queens wants to establish a running game, and Laurier bringing in Derek Medler, and they're a good running game. So if Queens can win the running game today, then I think that'd be a big key for them and for the Queens offense.
And turning to the keys for Laurier, Donnie Lewis, we talked to the Laurier coaches, and they've already made some changes to their defense in readiness for this air attack of Queens.
Well, defense and special teams. We'll get to special teams in a second, but a couple of key guys to take a look at today. Rowan Thompson is normally their weak side linebacker. He's going to be moved inside today to play middle linebacker. Kevin McNeil, their middle linebacker, moving to defensive end. And finally, Tony Bretney, a defensive end, is going to be moving inside to play defensive tackle. And you might see them coming out with what we would call a 3-2 alignment, 3 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and putting 7 DBs in there. to try and stop Tommy Dennison. The other key guy, as we mentioned in terms of special teams, is the all-conference punter, leading punter in the OU right now, Ed Becker, and he right now is an over 40-yard average on his punts. Now, in terms of Queens, though, take a good look at a guy like Wilfrid Laurier, who almost when the weather seems to get a little bit worse, seems to have been bunting a little bit better into the wind this year, so that may be a bit of an advantage if he can try and keep close to Becker in terms of punting stats today.
Okay, so it should be a great one. These two teams have met 5 other times. Last time was last year here on this field in the playoffs. Gaels won in the last minute. Should be another great one. It's Laurier and Queens, and it's coming up next on Cogeco 13.
A website that will let me order more services.
I've had access to my very own techno geek.
A website even I can navigate through.
Oh, click, 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 you're done. Zoom.
It's easy to get in touch with us 24/7. Just visit Cogeco.com. And right now, order any service online from Cogeco, and you could win a trip to Vegas. Cogeco, keeping you turned on.
Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's matchup between the 4-1 Queens Golden Gaels and the visiting 1-4 Laurier Golden Hawks. My name is Don Lewis. I'm going to be providing play-by-play. I'm now going to bring in with me here James McLean, who's going to be providing color for this afternoon's game. And James, as we talked about in the pre-game show, this Laurier team cannot be taken lightly. Yes, they're 1-4, but they've been a tough team against all their opponents so far this year.
Yeah, there's more to the story than their record indicates. They're a very competitive team. Offensively, they don't threaten too much, but they're a scrappy defense. They stay in the game. They're athletic on that side of the ball, and they really, I think, with the teams that they've played so far, I think they believe that they can compete with anybody in the conference. So not to be taken lightly as they play the Golden Gaels today.
Now for this afternoon's matchup, to get things started after the band and the cheerleaders and the dancers leave the field, it's going to be Laurier that is going to be receiving at the north end of the field. Coming down for today's game, and James, you were down here last night, it was very windy, although right now it looks as though the wind has died down a bit. Laurier won the toss, deferred to Queens. Queens then decided that they wanted to pick an end. They've decided to take the south end and see if their defense can try and pin these Laurier Golden Hawks deep after their first possession.
Well, the energy you bring to the opening part of the game can set the tone for the game, and for Queens, they've got a pretty strong defense. They have a good run defense, and Laurier with their third-string quarterback starting, primarily a run offense. So Queens is probably confident they can prevent Laurier from getting points in the first drive, get some good field position, and try and go up early on a score in the first quarter.
Let's talk about that Laurier offense. We take a look at the starting offensive line. All the guys are 6'3" at least, and all of them are at least about 260, 270 pounds. And talking to Gaels defensive coordinator Pat Tracy, he said, don't let those listed weights fool you. They're all at least 300 pounds. So the defense today is going to be going up against the biggest offensive line that they've seen so far this year.
Yeah, they're big and strong, and they come off the ball, and they know they're going to be running the ball. So that's their attitude.
Okay, off the kickoff, it's a short kick coming down to Laurier on their own 35-yard line, and back to receive the ball that time was number 20, Brian Hickey, one of the running backs for these Golden Hawks. So a short kick that time by Levac, and about a 7-yard return for Hickey. So it'll be the Golden Hawks getting things set up at their own 42-yard line. And we're going to run down that starting offense for Laurier. Ryan Jeffrey, left tackle. Steve Skells, left guard. Jeff Mellis at the center. Owen Thompson, right guard. And Mitch Zappatelli at right tackle. Chris Adams, the third-string quarterback now, is up under center. Backs in an I formation, and he's going to hand the ball off to Medler. And Medler gets met quickly. Good job that time by the left side of the Queens defense. In there to make the tackle, Craig Thompson, and he was assisted that time by Nathan Haskell. And Nathan Haskell, a guy that's been moving back from a broken hand that he had earlier in the year.
Yeah, I got the cast off, and really strong, very strong football player, and they basically got 4 linebackers in there just to try and stop the strong run game that they've got.
Okay, Medler and Glover. Glover's at the fullback right now. They go split backs, dropping back to pass. Ball comes over the middle, intended that time.
trying to get it to the wide receiver up there, Derek Cox. He drops the ball. Some good zip that time shown on the ball by Chris Adams. However, as we said, if you're for a Queens fan, you're hoping that the defense was going to be able to stop them. They're able to do that, and they're going to be forcing the number one punter right now in the OU. That's Ed Becker, and he's going to be back to punt the ball away as they're waiting to get the final man in for special teams. Back to receive for the Gaels, Sean McKinnon and Brian Crawford. And Crawford is the second-ranked punt returner in the CIS right now in terms of average punt return. So the Gaels doing a good job on special teams there. Becker getting the ball away. It's a wobbly ball. Coming down, and Crawford actually lets it bounce, goes all the way back to his own 20. He picks it up, tries to elude a tackler. He's unable to do so. Down quickly to make the tackle that time, Ryan Brown.
Looks like a bit of a bad decision by Brian to pick up that ball.
So after that 40-yard punt, we're now going to send it down to Bill Miklas on the sidelines.
Okay, guys, quickly, the Laurier coaching staff a little discombobulated, to say the least. Dave Tuffy Knight is the acting offensive coordinator. Gary Jeffries is the acting head coach. The reason being, head coach Rick Schmitz and Wally Gabler Jr. are both on strike. The Wilfrid Laurier Staff Association has been on strike for the last 3 weeks. And so, as a result, even the coaching staff is affected by changes. Much like the injuries to the players, the coaching staff is all messed up.
And on that first down play, Craig Spear running a drag route across the middle, picking up the ball and then able to get upfield for close to first down yardage. Once again, the Gaels going with an empty backfield, getting things started off with Tom Dennison at quarterback. And James, one of the keys we thought we would see in talking to both the Laurier Golden Hawks coaches and also the Gaels coaches, with that Laurier might be trying to keep the Gaels from being able to get some of those seam routes downfield.
Yeah, that's anytime you play the Queens offense of the past 2 years, that's the primary goal, is to eliminate the deep pass, and we'll see if coming out right away Laurier can do that.
And on that pass completion, that now makes Tom Dennison, he now holds the single season record for Gaels in terms of passing yardage. Came in 2 yards short of Bo Howes. Now second down, complete out to Brian Crawford in the flat. Crawford tries to elude a tackler, and he gets up for good positive yardage. Coming up to make the tackle that time is the man who was downfield tackling Crawford on that punt return, Ryan Brown, also up there. Another defensive back, David Agro, and Agro, as we mentioned his name, is one of the big players in terms of defensive secondary for these Golden Hawks.
Yeah, he's a fifth-year guy. They usually have your experienced player playing safety, so he's moved from halfback from last season, where he was quite an effective DB.
So second and a short one here. Sheldon Weeks in, along with Crawford, and Tommy Dennison is just going to dive forward for it, picks up about 3 yards on the play, and credit the Gaels now with first down passing and now running as they start things off here. And with their first possession of the game.
What you notice with the passing game so far is Queens is trying to throw the ball underneath. They have a lot of players running across the field, running out routes, rather than their usual seam routes, because they expect Laurier to have adjusted to it. And on film, in talking to Coach Sheehan, he mentioned that's where they do leave players open, is underneath and across the middle.
Okay, Gaels now with the ball just outside their own 40-yard line. Dennison again in the shotgun. Crawford, the lone man in the backfield. 3 receivers to the high side, 2 near side. Dennison drops straight back, looks again short over the middle, that time intended for Ian Fleming, and just failing to connect with Fleming. Ball a little bit behind him, and now let's run down that starting Queens offense. The offensive line coming back this week: Andrew Stead at left tackle, Mike Johnson left guard, John Landon at center, Ramsey Ida at right guard, and Ryan Freeman is in at right tackle. Again, Ryan McElmoyle is going to be out for this week's game. Dennison starting quarterback. Brian Crawford, Sheldon Weeks starting in the backfield. Ian Fleming, John Fruit is back this week. Craig Spear and Brad Smith are the wide receivers. Andrew Joyner is dressing this game in place of Nick Corneal. 2nd and 10. Dennison drops back to pass. Lots of time looking downfield for Spear, and if they give him the spot here, it looks as though he does indeed have first down yardage. That's just going to be very close with this spot. He had to get almost to the 51, and right now that's where they're spotting the ball.
Looks like he did pick it up there. Tom has just such great patience and gets really good protection from an O-line that, once again, is a little bit different than it was the week before with the rookie Freeman starting at right tackle. But they did a great job there defending against a really strong front four that they've had some moves themselves, but you expect anytime you play Laurier that'll be the strength of their defense.
And starting off, taking a look at those defensive linemen, Justin Shackle, Matt Kruchak, Josh Alexander, and Tony Brettany. Alexander was hurt last week, and a lot of us thought coming down to today's game that he would not be dressing. However, he was able to make a big recovery for Laurier, as they're almost getting into must-win territory. Right now, they're tied, a three-way tie right now for 7th place, and one of those teams is not going to make it coming into this week's game. They're tied with Guelph and Waterloo. They've already lost this year to the Waterloo Warriors. Faked inside handoff, play action, dropping back to pass, looking deep downfield, and Brad Smith double covered on the play. Agro back there, with coverage along with Stephen Frake. So we're waiting to see once when Queens was going to take their first shot downfield, that time falling incomplete. It's going to bring up a 2nd and 10. Just to run down the rest of the starting defense, Connor Healy, cornerback, along with Ryan Brown, Rowan Thompson at linebacker, Kevin McNeil, and Len Maggiacomo. I've already mentioned Agro's name, Jeff Sweeter, one of the safeties, also along with Ian Logan. 2nd and 10 now for the Gaels. They were able to convert the last time they had 2nd and 10. Dennison dropping back to pass, and he looks to run it, and now he's going to throw it downfield again, complete to Spear, and again for first down yardage. So Craig Spear, one of the faster guys on this team, but right now they're using him almost as sort of the fourth option there in that drag route across the middle.
Yeah, and the Laurier D-line starting to get a little bit of pressure. Tom Dennison stepping up, taking the hit, and delivering the ball for a first down on, again, the crossing routes. The seams are well covered with the 2 over top man underneath coverage.
And now Gaels able to move into Laurier territory at the 44-yard line. Dennison this time is up under center. This time he's going to hand the ball off to Crawford, makes a couple of good moves, and he gets down to the 35-yard line. A nice 9-yard gain that time for Crawford on his first carry of the game.
Well, that's a little bit of the run game. Coach Sheehan mentioned that they were likely going to start working on this game. They'd like to against a good run defense establish a bit of a run game on well, the conditions are clearing up, but what was looking to be an ugly day.
And especially as we start to move later into the season, having that balanced attack and being able to rush the ball along with the potent passing attack of the Gaels is going to become more and more important. Flag on the play. Crawford takes the handoff, tries to get around the right end, and he's going to be bottled up as a whole host of defenders coming in there to make the tackle. Ian Logan, Ryan Brown coming up from their defensive back positions. Also in on the play that time is the big defensive lineman Josh Alexander. However, it looks though it's going to be an offside flag here against the Golden Hawks, and that'll give the Gaels first down yardage. Sorry, offside the other way. My mistake. So now I assume Laurier will take the result of the play. That was a 2-yard loss that time for Crawford on his second carry of this afternoon's matchup. And it looks as though the Gaels going into, well, it's a bit of a cross breeze, but they're going to be bringing out Will Rugdenhill to punt the ball away coming into this afternoon's matchup. Rugdenhill is the 4th rated punter in the conference, a 38-yard average. The long that he's had this year is a 75-yard single, one of the keys in that comeback victory over the Ottawa UGGs in week 2. So 9:35 and counting here in the first quarter as the Gaels' first drive stalls. Rugdenhill getting the ball downfield, coming down to right. He picks it up at his 1-yard line, and he's able to get good return yardage out to about the 15-yard line. So a 14-yard return that time off of a 37-yard punt for Rugdenhill, and this time the Golden Hawks are going to be backed up starting at their own 15-yard line. So at least right now the Gaels are able to win the field position battle. And talking to acting head coach Gary Jeffries, James, he indicated that they had to be able to win that special teams and time of possession battle this afternoon.
It's going to be very important because their offense is not explosive and doesn't have the weapons that Queens does or the quarterback to throw the ball. So we'll see how that progresses throughout the game.
O.J. Tassian is the fullback this time. Handoff going to Medler, and he gets up across the 15-yard line. You can credit him with about a 4-yard carry that time. It's going to bring up 2nd and 6 here.
Well, what you see there is a handoff their bread and butter. Medler's got almost an 8-yard average so far this year. Second leading rusher in the country. We'll probably see quite a bit of his name and number today.
As you mentioned in the pregame show, Medler setting a Laurier Golden Hawks record a couple of weeks ago, 251 yards. So 251 yards as they beat the Varsity Blues 58-0 at home. Handoff again to Medler on the pitch. This time tries to get outside. Coming up to make the first hit on him is Adam Ross, coming up from his linebacker position, and it looks as though Medler's going to be a little bit short. And indeed he is. And it's going to bring Becker on now. Third and a long one. As once again the Gaels defense have been able to force Laurier into a 2 plays and out situation. There's a Laurier Golden Hawk down on the far side of the field. And we're waiting to get a number on the injured player. 8:24 left here in the first quarter. Nothing. Still a score between the Golden Gaels and the Golden Hawks.
More run from a team that doesn't really advertise much else. It tends to they run the ball quite a bit, and as expected with a third-string quarterback in the game and an outstanding runner in the backfield and a huge O-line, it just makes sense really that although they have had the coaching change and a change in philosophy with the coaching changes and the injury to the starting quarterback, it makes sense that Tuffy Knight does run the ball quite a bit.
Chad McAvelia, the injured player, he's able to run off under his own steam. Becker back for the punt, low snap, gets a wobbly ball away, and this time Crawford is going to pick the ball up, waiting to try and get a no yards call at his own 51-yard line. Returns it quickly downfield. He's breaking away inside the 35, inside the 25, trying to get away from Becker. Makes a move from him, and Becker begs him down at the 14-yard line. So a tremendous punt return that time by Crawford. Once again, one of the leading punt returners in the nation. A 33-yard punt return that time by Crawford after a 27-yard punt. And we're going to take a look at the replay coming up here in a second. And James, Crawford making a couple of nice moves to get that punt return going.
Great patience. Waits for the hole to show up. He had his head up and just shows his outstanding speed as a track athlete. Fortunately, couldn't get by the punter, but the punter used the sidelines to cut him off there. Great return.
Dennison back to pass, looks over the middle for Fleming. Ball's tipped and intercepted by Agro. Agro now trying to run the ball back up the sideline. There's a flag in behind the play, and it looks as though it's going to be, I would expect it'll be a block, an illegal blocking behind the play, but that time the ball bouncing off of Fleming's fingertips. And Agro coming up to make the pick, and he's able to run it back out to about the 21-yard line. However, it looks as though it's going to come back a little bit. Indeed it is. An illegal block. However, tough break for the Gaels as Fleming was just outside the Laurier goal line that time as the Gaels are trying to go in for the first points.
I'd like to see him come up with that catch. Asking a lot of him, though. And, well, from up here it's easy to tell, but it looks to me like Tom likely threw the ball to an area that he shouldn't have there, and he double coverage, and the fifth-year safety, Dave Agro, comes up with a big play for this Laurier team, who needs to keep Queens off the scoreboard early.
Okay, so now Laurier backed up even further. Last drive started at their own 15, now at their own 7-yard line. Adams, inside handoff, quickly to check that, going to O.J. Tassi. Actually, sorry, it's Brian Hickey now. Medler's back up with the carry that time. And you can credit him with about a 6-yard carry. Tassi checking in, Hickey checking out now. Going to bring up 2nd and 4. And Bill mentioned the change in terms of head coach right now. The acting coordinator is Tuffy Knight, known as a definite proponent of the run. Toss outside now to Medler. He tries to get around Mitchell, makes a nice move on him. He's able to get around Calvert. And finally coming up to make the tackle for the Gaels is Mitchell Smith, but good run that time, as Medler is going to give Laurier their first down of this afternoon. And getting back to the point with Tuffy Knight, James, he has that comment, there's 3 things that can happen on the pass, and 2 of them aren't very good. So that time they're able to use the toss sweep to get outside and get their first down of this afternoon's game.
Well, we haven't seen him drop back to try to throw the football yet, and they continue. Medler, just go to Medler. He shows off his quickness there and beats an excellent defender in Mark Mitchell.
Okay, this time it's Hickey and Medler. Handoff, fake handoff actually. Smith dropped back to pass, looking downfield. And intending at that time for Joel Wright. Back in the coverage for Mitchell Smith. And also back there for the Gaels, Kirby Calvert, one of the rookie defensive backs. Calvert injured last week. Back in the lineup this week.
Well, that brings up a good point. There are a lot of young players on this Queens defense that are getting playing time. You've got a guy who switched positions playing defensive end. You've got 2 rookie corners and a rookie halfback in the game at this point. So not surprised that Laurier might go after them a little bit.
2nd and 10, not the kind of situation the Golden Hawks wanted to be in. And it's whistled down. Adams was dropping back to pass on the play. No penalty flags that we've seen yet, so there was a timeout called, and I believe that might have been called by the Laurier bench, or at the last second possibly by the wide receiver. So let's just quickly run down the starting Queens defense. Across the line, it's Jack Woodrow in this afternoon for Andrew Mode, Corey Trudeau, Matt Kirk, and Craig Thompson. At the corners, Dave Brown and Kirby Calvert, Mark Mitchell, Mitchell Smith, and Curtis McClellan, the DBs. And in at the linebacker starting this afternoon, Adam Ross, Andrew Puffin, and Nathan Haskell. And James, we talked about depth and being healthy right now for the Gaels. You take a look at 2 guys that we're not mentioning as starting at linebacker this afternoon, Philippe Champagne and Michael Petoni, 2 of the leading tacklers on the Gaels so far this season.
Yeah, the luxury that Pat Tracy has for the first time in a long time is depth at linebacker, and taking advantage today by giving those guys a chance to, well, we see Petoni in the game. No, that's Haskell.
Okay, Adams, under center. He's going to roll out to the right side. He's pressured, throws the ball over the middle, and dropping it, there was Brian Hickey. In quickly with pressure for the Gaels, Haskell and also Mark Mitchell, but Hickey, if he had caught that, had acres to run through the middle of the Queens defense. Going to bring up 3rd and 10. And Laurier will be booting the ball away from their own 24-yard line here. Becker back once again for his 3rd punt of this afternoon.
Well, Laurier showing trips. Coach Tracy mentioning before the game they expect them to run out of trips there. They give the trips look. Queens might have expected run because Brian Hickey was wide open there.
And Crawford, who had the big punt return last time, is not in this time. It's Brad Smith back as the 2nd punt returner along with McKinnon. And Smith lets the ball bounce. And it's going to give a big punt now. Smith trying to make a move, gets away at his own 30-yard line, now comes around near side, and he gets tackled at the last second. Tripped up, good play that time by Jesse Alexander. Down to make the punt return, so a 6-yard punt return. But it's a 56-yard punt that time by Becker, and that swings the field position back now. Gaels starting at their own 36-yard line, and before this drive, we're going to send it down to Bill Miklas on the sideline.
Okay, guys, this is the 6th meeting between the 2 teams, Queens and Laurier. In the last 5 meetings, the first one, Queens won, and that was the first Vanier Cup for Queens. They beat Waterloo Lutheran at that time, 42-14. Then they didn't play again until 1991 when Laurier came back from 22-3 down to win the Churchill Bowl. Then in 2000, 2 years ago, when the Gaels joined the OUA, it was the worst ever defeat the Queens has ever suffered. They lost in Kitchener 67-7. Following year, Queens wins their 4th in a row, and their first time since 1996, 30-8. And then last year, of course, in the playoffs, the thrilling seesaw battle when Nathan Gorham caught the late touchdown and Queens won. So the previous 5 times, they've been important wins for one side or the other. Let's see what today brings.
Okay, and they're now letting Dennison walk out with the ball after that 24-yard first down completion to Craig Spear, and that time almost a bit of a mix-up for the Gaels wide receivers as Ian Fleming was right in the same area for the Gaels.
They were able to go deep down the seams. Great patience by Tom. Enough time that the receivers actually ended up late in the pattern getting into the same area.
Laurier coach has talked about coming out with a 3-2 alignment right now, rushing 4 linemen. Dennison this time forced to roll out to the right side, and he's just going to try and throw it downfield at the last second. Looks as though he was going to have to take a loss about 3 yards that time. Getting the ball away to Fleming, though incomplete. Coming around to make the pressure from the far side is Kevin McNeil, the linebacker right now lining up on the defensive line for the Golden Hawks.
Well, very encouraging. Queens is coming out and running their seam routes, attempting to go after the Golden Hawks here, even with the deep 3 coverage. They're lining up deep and they're dropping back there, and the receivers are running hard. One thing to notice, Craig Spears moved into the slot a little bit this week. It gives him a chance to run, maybe get a running start, move around a bit, find some space out there. Doing really well so far.
Whereas we've normally been seeing Spear running from the wide receiver position with 4 receivers one side and 1 Spear, the lone man near side. Today it's 3-2. Holding penalty coming up. Ball intended for Fruit in the flat, and it looks as though there might also be an interference call. Coming up to make the hit that time was Connor Healy. And we'll wait to see how these calls set up. The second penalty looked to definitely be interference that time on the part of Healy, the Golden Hawk defensive back. John Landon, one of the Gaels' senior players, moving over from defensive line to start at center this year for the Gaels, up there to confer with the referees. And we're just waiting for the signals here. 4:36 left in the first quarter. And both penalties going against the Golden Hawks. So the Gaels will take the holding penalty, the 10-yard holding penalty, and that's now going to move the ball down to the Golden Hawk 40-yard line. So that's the Gaels' fifth first down this afternoon. 1 on the ground, 3 through the air, as we would often expect. That's the first one via the penalty route. Crawford in the backfield along with Dennison. Dennison looking out near side this time, intending the ball for Spear downfield, and just off of his fingertips inside the Golden Hawk 20, providing the coverage that time. Niall Both, also back there in the secondary, Stephen Frake. However, if Spear would have been able to pull that in, he might have been in for 6.
Well, that was Tommy asking quite a bit of Spear there. Tom talks about throwing to a space, and I think he did it there. He threw between the safety and the defensive coverage underneath. Just maybe overthrew Craig just a little bit. Had to dive for that one. Couldn't pull it in.
So it's going to bring up 2nd and 10 from the Laurier 40-yard line. Andrew Smith in the backfield this time. Dennison rolling out. Pressure coming up. He's able to get away from the first tackler. However, he's hammered. Coming up to make the tackle from his defensive back position on the blitz is Ryan Brown. And you can credit him with about an 8-yard sack on the play. Providing the initial pressure that time was Tony Bretney, one of the big Laurier Golden Hawk defensive linemen. 7-yard loss actually on the play, so it's now going to bring up 3rd and 17 for the Gaels, and that's going to bring on Will Brokenhill to punt the ball away once again. So good job that time. That was going to be one of the keys for Laurier, was if they could get a lot of pressure on Dennison this afternoon. Brokenhill gets away, a nice punt into the wind, and it's going to come down to right on his own 13-yard line. So a 34-yard punt and about a 5-yard return that time. Laurier will be getting the ball underway this time from their own 20-yard line. Let's just run down a big score last night in Toronto as the Western Mustangs moving back into a first-place tie in terms of points with McMaster, beating the Varsity Blues 59-13. Now Laurier once again getting the ball underway from deep inside their own end of the field. Adams with Tassie and Medler. Handoff inside to Medler, and he's able to get about a 5-yard gain that time. Haskell in on the tackle, along with Craig Thompson for the Gaels. Let's talk about Craig Thompson for a second here, James. This is the guy who started off as an inside receiver and then was moved over to play defensive line. And that's not often the kind of move you see for
halfway through training camp this year, nonetheless, and he responded really well. Craig's a really hard-working young man. Probably didn't have the speed to play receiver, more of a tight end type, so has found a home at the end. Great to see him making plays.
2nd and 10, and it's going to be Adams throwing out near side this time. And he completes it to Cox, and looks to be for first down yardage. As he can give Cox, it's actually, check that. They only gave him about 5 yards on the reception that time, so it's going to bring up 3rd and 1. And when you see, looks as though Laurier is going to go with the jumbo package now on this 3rd, and actually it's a short one. Checking in on the play right now, Josh Alexander and Kyle Weston.
With the size of the O-line, you add a bit more strength in there with some D linemen. Really, pretty much, probably considered an automatic at this point, as long as the handoff goes well here for Laurier.
Okay, Kevin McNeil also checking into the game. Handoff going to the second man on the play is Hickey. Flag on the play as Hickey gets first down yardage. 3 yards, and another flag coming in after the play, as it looked as though Hickey and Gaels linebacker on the play defensive lineman James Gaudreau were having some words after the play.
Well, when Coach Tracy mentioned before the game this jumbo package they've got, he suggested that the only thing you can do against it is prevent the big play. Hope they don't bust it, because they've got so many big guys out there. It's just too much weight to hold back for a half a yard that they needed there.
So I believe offside on the Gaels, and then face masking on the Gaels. So 20 yards and penalties on that play. And that's going to give Laurier their best forward movement of this afternoon's game, all the way out to their own 50-yard line. And the Gaels coming into this game were the most penalized team in the OU in terms of penalty yardage. 60 times they've been penalized for 573 yards. And on that play alone, 2 penalties for 20 yards. So this is the kind of situation Laurier wanted to get into. Getting some decent field position here and trying to work some time off the clock. Pitch coming out near side to Medler. He's able to get upfield for about 6 yards before he gets tackled on the play. Coming up to make the hit, Adam Ross. And Ross is almost playing sort of a soft corner, outside halfback position this afternoon, normally lining up as a linebacker for the Gaels.
Basically getting another linebacker in the game, another guy who can occupy a fullback or an O-lineman type, and more run support. And they're doing exactly what Coach Tracy predicted. They're running inside with the power fullback lead and running the toss outside, and depending on where you adjust, they're going the opposite way.
Medler now 6 carries for 28 yards on this afternoon's action. Laurier now has moved across center field for the first time this afternoon. 2nd and 4 coming up. Handoff inside again to Medler, and he's going to be stopped up quickly. Coming to fill in from the linebacker position that time is check that, Andrew Pepin coming in. So it's going to bring up 3rd and 3. Corey Trudeau also in on the tackle for the Gaels. And right now, while they've been able to get some decent push or decent yardage outside on that toss sweep, they've been having a little bit of difficulty inside of the Golden Hawks. So good job right now by the Gaels' interior of their defense.
Well, it's an high energy defense. You can come in excited, bring good intensity, but throughout the game, this O-line might start to wear down on the Gaels. They're not as big as the O-linemen, so we'll see how that plays out throughout the rest of the game.
Okay, Crawford back in to return this punt. Becker getting the ball away. Another end-over-end job, bouncing McKinnon back to pick the ball up at his own 11-yard line. And he slips up at the 13-yard line, so just a 2-yard return that time on the punt off of a 43-yard punt that time for Becker. And now the Gaels are going to have their worst starting field position, this time backed up all the way to their own 13-yard line.
And interesting, it's still 0-0, just under a minute here left in the first quarter. Not maybe what you would expect coming into this game with the Queen's vaunted passing game versus Laurier's run-based offense. Bit of a surprise, I think, so far.
Again, Laurier backed up now to their 3rd quarterback of the season. Handoff is going to go to Crawford. He tries to get around right end. And able to get a break off the right corner, able to get up for about 7-8 yards. Chasing him initially on the play that time was Kevin McNeil all the way from the backside. Over finally knocking him out of bounds. Jeff Smeaton coming up from his defensive back position, but good job that time by Crawford, able to use his speed to get upfield for 7 yards. Chris Rogan now checking into the game for Crawford.
Well, this one's going to be a fight, and I think Laurier's made that very clear by their goal line stand earlier in the quarter. They're not going to go away, and it's probably going to come down to who's going to want it more and who's going to run the ball harder. And Brian Crawford gives us a great example of running hard right there.
So some good first down yardage that time for the Gaels. Dennison, inside handoff to Rogan out of the shotgun, and Rogan gets up for first down yardage. His first carry of this afternoon's game. That's good for 4 yards. And that moves the ball out to the Gaels' 24-yard line. Just to run down some of these tight scores and tight losses that Laurier has had this year. Losing to Waterloo 18-16 in the first week, 7-5 against Windsor, 20-17 against Western, before finally winning 58-0 over the UT Varsity Blues. And that's the final play in the first quarter. Now we're going to send it down to the sidelines to Bill Miklas.
Okay, guys, quickly, at halftime, or at the end of the second quarter, just before our halftime show, I'll have an interview with injured Laurier quarterback Ryan Peer. The player out of Belleville was injured 2 weeks ago against Toronto in their 58-0 win. As you guys have been talking about, his backup since has been injured. Thus, the third string quarterback is in now. I'll talk to Ryan because he's part of a family of football players. His twin brother Tobin plays at Waterloo, and their older brother Kyle is one of the leading rushers in the country and plays in McMaster. That's coming up at halftime, guys.
And Bill mentioning Kyle Peer last week, running for making an OU record, 39 carries last week for 251 yards as Mac beating Laurier. Andrew Smith this time getting the handoff. Gets away from a couple of tacklers. Good push that time by the Gaels offensive line. Some good moves shown that time by Smith, and he's able to get up for a 5-yard carry that time on first down. So the Gaels have been throwing the ball almost all the time on first down a lot this year. Right now, so far this drive, just 3 rushing plays.
That's outstanding to see. They're playing against a team that's going to try and control the clock and limit their ball possession. And one way to counter that is to run the ball well, eat some clock themselves, and make a statement with their run game against one of the better defenses probably in the OU in the conference.
Okay, in the first quarter, Dennison was 5 of 10 for 68 yards. Now he's going to pass the ball out in the flat, completes it to Smith. He gets up very close to a first down yardage on the play. And you can credit him with a 5-yard catch and a first down for the Gaels.
Excellent hands out of the backfield. Very, very consistent. He constantly he hauls in those balls all the time, and great power. Wrestling in the offseason shows his strength there on that little dump play where he had to run over a Laurier defender to get the first down for the Gaels.
So right now, Laurier may be forcing the Gaels to move away from trying to get the ball downfield as quickly to the receivers. That's Smith's 6th catch on the season. Inside handoff this time going again to Smith, and he dives up across the 40-yard line. And he's going to have about 4 or 5 yards on the play. A Laurier player is down on the field, and this Laurier team has just been bitten by the injury bug this year. We talked about the problems they've had at quarterback. Just to update a couple other players, Tom Annett, another one of the big defensive linemen, actually broke his neck. Now, it was one of the vertebrae. It was a C5 vertebrae and a ruptured disc, and he had surgery this week, as I believe they took some cartilage out of his hip area, I believe, when we were talking to Pierre, their injured quarterback, and he let us know about his injury, but they've had a tough time this season, battling a lot of adversity.
Oh, yeah, adversity is the name of the game for them. They, of course, lost their coach. They lost their defensive coach, and now they lost their starting quarterback, their backup. They lost one of their studs on the D-line, Annette. He's one of the pillars in there, and compared with Queens has been fairly lucky. Of course, Andrew Mode not playing this week, but yeah, the one thing that you can say for this Laurier Hawks team, although they're only 1-4 in the conference, is that they definitely battle, and they've been through a lot. So they're probably not going to give up on any score, particularly having already almost beaten Western on a nationally televised game. They feel, I think, that they should have a better record than they do.
So Dennison right now 2nd and 5 in the shotgun. He looks straight over the middle, completes it to Fleming, and he takes a couple of big hits, but he's able to hold on to the ball that time. A 16-yard reception. Agro on the coverage that time, also up there, making a hit is Neil Both.
I think they're taking advantage now that they're running earlier in the drive. Laurier's had to play more of a vanilla defense against the Queens running game, so what you see there is sort of your normal coverage, and Ian Fleming's able to settle down in the middle of the field and sit down in front of the safety and make a big catch, taking advantage of his size against the shorter Dave Agro.
So now the Gaels able to move the ball across center field. In the I formation, Weeks coming out near side, faking the handoff, looking for the screen on the backside, and Dennison's going to be wrapped up on the play. Good job that time with 6 DBs on the play, and Dennison is going to be sacked for the 2nd time this afternoon. Making one of the hits that time, Lee Maggiacomo, a linebacker for the Golden Hawks. It's going to bring up 2nd and 14 now for the Gaels as they're forced to move back on their own side of the 55-yard line. McKinnon checks in as Sheldon Weeks checks out for the Gaels.
So Queens is obviously going to set up here in a single back set, likely going to pass the ball on 2nd and 15, and hopefully with some success against the Laurier defense that's held them to 0 points so far in the game.
One of the Gaels' big players so far this season, Brad Smith, has yet to catch a ball this afternoon. Dennison dropped back to pass, flushed out, throws the ball to McKinnon. Gets across the 45-yard line. Nice block that time by Fleming. Allows McKinnon to get first down yardage. So on 2nd and 14, they're able to pick up 21 yards that time for Sean McKinnon, and another first down this afternoon for the Gaels. 6th so far through the air.
Well, talking to Coach Sheehan, we asked him who's going to have a big game today. Talked about Craig Spear maybe having a big game, and he's had a good game so far. He mentioned Sean McKinnon. 3rd down catches. Doesn't make a lot of plays, but the ones that he makes tend to be big. Another huge one there on 2nd and 15.
So Dennison now has completed 8 of 13 for 110 yards. Again, dropping back to pass here on first down, rolling out to the right side. Looks this time for John Fruit as he's back in after sitting out last week's game. That pass is good for 8 yards. Coming up to make the tackle on the play is Ian Logan.
Now, talking about Ian Logan as a halfback, he's a guy that Tom Dennison's victimized a little bit over the past 2 meetings, and particularly in the flats. The Coach Sheehan and Tom both mentioned it before the game that they expect that the flats will be open and somewhere they can go. And on that case, deep coverage over top was there on, I believe it was Fleming, and went underneath to John Fruit for 2nd and short here.
So 2nd and long 2. Smith and Weeks are the backs. Handoff going to Smith, 2nd man through, and he's able to get first down yardage inside the 25. And you can credit Smith with 5 yards that time. Now, James, we take a look at the first quarter where Laurier held the ball for just over 8 minutes, and one of the keys when we were talking to Gary Jeffries, acting head coach for these Golden Hawks, was that they wanted to win that time of possession battle. 4:30 right now on this drive for the Gaels.
Well, I think outstanding time of possession for Laurier. So far, this game's going exactly where they want to, other than the big punt return by Brian Crawford. They've done a great job defending a really good Queens offense so far.
Okay, Dennison fakes the handoff. Looking down the field for Fleming in the end zone. Incomplete, ball overthrown. Coverage on the play provided that time by Ryan Brown. And let's get back to this vaunted passing attack for the Gaels. We talked about Brad Smith. Tommy Dennison, of course, has been pitching the ball all over the place this season. He's in a battle, not only on the field, but also off the field. He needs 298 yards today to retake the OU lead from Chris Hessel. Hessel last night in their matchup against UT, 22 for 31, 350 yards, as he broke he is in the process of breaking numerous Western Mustang records this season for passing. Dennison, this time in the shotgun. He's going to almost lateral it to Crawford. Crawford inside the 25, and he gets tripped up there. Coming up to make a nice tackle on the play is Stephen Frake from his defensive back position, and now it's going to bring on Roger Levac to try his first field goal of this afternoon's matchup.
Well, I think you really have to be impressed with how this Laurier defense has responded. In true Queens defense fashion, they bend but don't break, allowing a pretty good drive there, all of 5 minutes of possession. But when it comes down to it, they've made the big play. They've taken away something from Queens. In this case, it was Brian, and one-on-one with defensive backfield. You usually take Brian Crawford in that situation, but nice tackle.
Levac right now the 3rd leading scorer in the OU. He's on to try a 30-yard field goal this time. McKinnon in to hold. Back in the end zone to wait for this ball is David Agro. Low snap. Levac gets it up, and it is good. And a good job that time by McKinnon. There's a flag downfield. And we'll wait to see what this penalty is. It looks as though by the reaction of the Laurier defense, it is against Laurier. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not it would give the Gaels first down yardage here. And just waiting to see what the call is going to be. Corey Trudeau now coming on for the Gaels defense. And while we're waiting for this call from the referees, we're going to send it down to Bill Miklas on the sideline.
Okay, quickly, guys, as it looks like the Gaels might be going back on offense. A couple of injury updates from the Laurier sideline. Jeff Smeaton has come off earlier in this drive, rung his bell. The doctor's going to look at him in another couple of minutes to see if he'll be okay. But right now, he's iffy whether he'll be back. And Chad McAvalia, the wide receiver, came out early in the first quarter, got poked in the eye, and should be back for the next series. Was testing his vision, seems to be okay.
Okay, so that's now the, thanks Bill, that's now the Gaels' second first down by penalty as they're going to take the points off the board. So this Gaels drive will continue now from the 11-yard line. Let's Hawks now 3 penalties for 35 yards this afternoon against the against the Golden Hawks. Handoff this time goes to Andrew Smith. He's able to get inside the 10-yard line, down to about the 6-yard line. Wrapped up on the play that time by Justin Shackle and Matt Kluchak.
Interesting dilemma there for Coach. Take the points off the board, as we saw last week on Monday Night Football. Take the points off the board, or leave them up there inside the 20. You know, it's a tough decision. I'd say it's the right call in this situation, but not an easy one necessarily for the coach.
And actually, they're only crediting Andrew Smith that time with a 5-yard carry, so it's make that a 4-yard carry, so it's going to bring up 2nd and 6 right now from just outside the Laurier 7-yard line. Dennison in the shotgun. He's going to roll out to the near side, drops back, looks over the middle for Crawford. He catches it down at about the 4-yard line, 5-yard line. However, he's hit hard on the play by Rowan Thompson, one of their big linebackers over the last couple of years. He did not face the Gaels last year in the playoffs, so it's now going to bring up 3rd and about 3.
Well, you see a big play there by one of their better players. Fortunate not to face him last year with the Gaels with his injuries. Very athletic, possible CFL candidate for them. One of the guys that anyone in their defense will talk about right away. One of the first guys, makes a lot of plays. Real leader for their team.
Now let's take a look at this catch on the replay here. Good catch that time, but great stick that time by Thompson coming up to make the hit on Crawford.
And before that, he put himself in position to make the play. Great footwork, obviously.
So the Dreads dead at the drive that time for the Gaels. An 89-yard drive so far, stalling at the Laurier 5-yard line. McKinnon again to hold. Roger Levac puts the ball up and through the uprights. No flags this time. So now with 8:41 left on the score clock here in the second quarter, the Gaels able to move out on top by a score of 3-0.
Well, if we analyze the keys of the game so far, with a little over a quarter burnt off, you have to suspect that both teams have handled the weather well. There isn't much of a factor. There's some wind today. Special teams field position, I'd say Queens is the victor there with a big punt return, but both teams have been kept out of the end zone, so hard to say who's won that battle. Winning the ground game, both teams have had success. We'll have to see how that one goes throughout the rest of the half.
Okay, Laurier is going to scrimmage the ball from their own 35-yard line here. And just waiting as the chain gang gets things set up on the far side. Laurier is going to huddle up once again. Chad McAveely coming back in. Now he's going to break back out wide to the high side. And it's going to be Agro and right on the near side for the Golden Hawks. Trap play this time. Medler able to get the ball upfield for about 5 yards before he gets wrapped up on the play. That time Adam Ross making the tackle for the Gaels. And that's, you know what, when we're talking to Pat Tracy, Gaels defensive coordinator, he said you're going to see them try and do a lot of power rush inside, then do the top sweep, then come back with that trap action like we saw in that play.
Yeah, it's so tough on the D-line because your man covering your lineman disappears and all of a sudden whack inside of the head, and there's a huge hole created in a big gain. So hopefully the D-line can absorb the O-line and let the linebackers make the plays today, just like on that last play.
Okay, pitch coming out near side for Medlar. He gets past the first tackler. However, he's going to be stopped after about a 3-yard gain. That time Corey Trudeau coming up to assist Andrew Pepin on the play. So it's going to bring up about 3rd and 2 here. And it's going to be a tough call right now for Tuffy Knight. And indeed, they're going to send on the punting team. And it's 3rd and it's a good 2 yards right now. And if the Gaels have done a good job right now, I think, this afternoon, James, negating or at least limiting somewhat that Laurier rushing attack.
Well, Medler's having a decent afternoon so far, but certainly not averaging 8 yards. And if you consider the big play that Coach Tracy was worried about them busting one of their short runs for a big one, definitely hasn't had no big runs today. So they've done a good job so far.
Becker gets the ball away. Nice kick coming down to McKinnon. He has to go all the way back to his own 16-yard line. He tries to break around the far side, gets away from the first man downfield, now going upfield. And he gets face masked on the play up at about his own 26-yard line that time. Coming up to make the tackle, looked as though it's Neil Both. But you can check that, make it about the 27-yard line. So a nice 14-yard return that time. And actually, the penalty is going to go against the Gaels.
Yeah, I think
Michael block.
Michael Petoni late. We'll see it late here. He'll come from the right side of the screen. and he'll try to pick up number 56, the chase man, right there. And didn't get his head in front of him, and he'll call that every time on special teams.
So a 56-yard punt that time by Becker. And it's now going to push the Gaels all the way back inside, just inside their own 15-yard line as they get this drive started. Tommy Dennison coming on once again, a quarterback. 7:09 left. That's now a fifth punt this afternoon for Becker, a 48.4-yard average. He was coming in leading the conference this season so far in punting. He had made 45 punts for 40.2-yard average, so increasing that. Inside handoff going to Smith as he tries to break around the right side. He's going to be stopped up. Nice job that time coming up to force on the play was Ian Logan, about a 2 or 3 yard loss on the play, and a holding penalty also going against the Gaels on the play. So it's decision time now. It's either going to be second and about 12 or 13, or first and probably about 18 for the Gaels. As right now they're on the 15, so it'll go halfway to the goal line on the play. So just waiting to see as to whether or not they're going to take the play or not. It looks as though they're going to decline that penalty, so you can debit, I guess, Smith with about a 2-yard loss on the play. So penalty decline. We've got a loss of 3 yards. Second and 13 now coming up for the Gaels. Clock now moving under 7 minutes, 6:40 and counting. Dennison in the shotgun, Smith in the backfield with him. Coming out, looking downfield for Spear. And it is intercepted. A great interception, sliding on the ground that time. Connor Keeley able to pick the ball off at the Gaels' 31-yard line. That's his second pick this afternoon. The first one he couldn't really knock against Tommy Dennison, but that time just a great play by Connor Healy as he slid down to pick off the ball. So now Laurier are going to be starting off with their best field position of this afternoon's match.
Well, Coach Ian wanted to take advantage of the weak flood, weak side of the play, weak side of the field, and Connor Healy comes from the underneath coverage, and gets deep and makes a great dive and catch on a throw intended for Craig Spear. Great play, great play.
Ball looked to be just a little bit underthrown that time by Dennison. So Adams and company going to get things started off here at the 31-yard line of the Gaels. Handoff goes to Medler inside, and he's going to be wrapped up after maybe a 2 or 3 yard gain. That time Mitchell Smith up there along with Jack Gaudreau. Gaels defensive end, so now it's 4-yard carry on the play, so 2nd and 6. Checking into the game now for the Golden Hawks is Brian Hickey. Coming out of the huddle is going to be slot back Derek Cox. So Medler now 10 carries this afternoon for 41 yards. That's about half of what he's been averaging so far this season. Okay, delay handoff inside. Coming to Brian Hickey, and he was coming from the left slot position. He's going to be wrapped up down at about the Gaels' 25-yard line. It's only about a 1-yard gain that time. Nathan Haskell coming up along with Adam Ross to make the stop for the Gaels, and it's now going to bring Becker on to try a field goal. We talked about where Levac is. He is the third in the conference in scoring. Becker 6th in the conference in scoring. 6 field goals, 6 singles, and 9 converts this season. And so Becker's going to be making the attempt from the 32-yard line. The hold for him is going to be David Agro, the defensive back. Good snap, good pin, and the ball is wide to the left, coming down to McKinnon. And check that, Chris Rogan, he's going to concede the single. So a bit of a break that time. Becker certainly had the distance, but not the direction he wanted on that kick. So the Gaels, after Dennison throws the pick, the Gaels defense able to step up, not allowing Laurier a first down, and then forcing him to kick it away and only single that time, making the score 3-1 now.
Yeah, Becker continues to be a less than consistent kicker, 6 of 14 so far in the season field goals. So does get the single there, but that really hurts his team at this point in the ballgame.
So Dennison, so far this afternoon, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He hadn't thrown an interception the last 3 games. Crawford now able to get good yardage upfield, out across the 40 as they take the ball from their own 35-yard line upfield to about the 42. Credit him. Actually, looks to be almost up to the 44. 8 yards on the play that time for the Gaels running back.
That's great lead block there by Sheldon Weeks. If you had to guess at this point, I'd say that Queens is probably winning the running battle so far in the game.
5 carries this afternoon for 23 yards for Crawford, and at least they're not expected to be able to run the ball, and they're getting some good push by the offensive lineman and Weeks with some good blocks as well. This time Weeks gets a handoff inside, and he's able to get up for first down yardage out across the 45. A 5-yard carry that time for Weeks. Making the tackle that time a little bit belatedly for the Golden Hawks of Matt Kruchak. So another first down for the Gaels and another first down on the ground this afternoon. So far that's 4 first downs. And the Gaels this season have been having about a 4-to-1 ratio in terms of first downs through the air and first downs on the ground. This afternoon, 6 through the air, 4 on the ground. However, just 3 points to show for it offensively so far. Smith, the lone man in the backfield with Dennison. 3 receivers near side, and Dennison's going to look to throw the ball down the middle of the field and almost completes it a spear as he was again running that drag route across the middle, and that's the kind of thing that we saw the Gaels do a good job early in the game last week to Ian Fleming. Right now they're using spear coming out of that slot position, but still no completions this afternoon to Brad Smith.
That's a bit of a surprise, but having experienced it personally, one thing that you'll find is when you lead a team statistically, as Brad obviously does, and second receiver in the nation in yardage and receptions, he will draw a lot of attention. And the other thing is he just may not be having a great half so far, and he'll pick it up probably.
Jimmy Elliott leading the nation in receiving coming into this weekend. Pass coming out near side for Fleming, and he picks it up at the 35, and he steps out of bounds at the 34-yard line. Otherwise, he would have been gone. But a big pass and run play that time for the Gaels.
What a receiving core.
So a 29-yard completion that time to Ian Fleming, and a great job by Fleming to bring that ball down in double coverage. Big first down for the Gaels that time.
Tommy shows great confidence in his second-year receiver by just heaving it up there in double coverage and letting Ian run under it. Shows great speed, great concentration.
So that puts Dennison now up near 150 yards on the afternoon. Crawford taking the inside handoff, and he's met right at the line that time, tripping him up on the play. A couple is Tony Bretney, and also in there to help make the play is Josh Alexander. Man down on the play for the Golden Hawks is Jeff Smeaton. As Bill gave us an update on his condition earlier on, he looks to be a little bit banged up. However, he's up quickly and is going to come off the field. So now that puts Dennison over 150 yards, 151 yards this afternoon, 11 of 18, the 2 interceptions so far. Just to run down Dennison's stats, right now he's averaging about 353 yards so far this season. He needs to average 297 to pass Dan Faraday from U of T. Had the OU record at 2,656 yards set back in 1981. However, of course, Chris Hassel from Western may have something to say about that, and needs to maintain his current pace if he can to get the all-time CIAU record that Greg Vavra had back in 1983. Crawford now picks the ball up out of the backfield, down to about the 15-yard line, 16-yard line, and an 18-yard completion that time. He's going to be tackled on the play by Rowan Thompson downfield. However, James, you like to see Thompson making the tackles if he's going to be forced about 15, 18 yards downfield.
Yeah, absolutely, and like we mentioned earlier, I think the effect of the running game is starting to show. Laurier having to line up and play man coverage with safety over top there, and what it does is it puts a linebacker who's not as fast as Brian Crawford out there trying to cover him on a screen play, and some great blocks there from the O-line. Great job downfield and great speed.
Okay, so that's the third time the Gaels have been in the red zone this game. First one an interception, next time a field goal. Now at the 16-yard line, Dennison rolling out near side. He's going to look back to the far side, and he's going to be wrapped up for a big loss on the play, all the way back to about the Laurier 27-yard line. So that's about an 11-yard loss on the play on the sack. Coming up to make the pressure, Josh Alexander. Matt Kruchak also in. I think he was the man who finished off Dennison on the play.
Well, theme so far today as Queens gets into the red zone is that the Laurier defense steps up to make a big play. They continue to do so, and this vaunted defense and really strong defensive line come in and make a huge play late in the second quarter here.
So again, the bend but don't break approach of these Golden Hawks. Dennison in the shotgun with Smith, lone man in the backfield. He's looking over the middle now. Has to step away again. Throws it down towards the end zone, and it's picked off once again by David Agro. Agro up across the 15-yard line, across the 20. He's tripped up finally. Making the tackle that time for the Gaels was Ryan Freeman, the tackle. However, a bad decision that time by Dennison, throwing it late over the middle. Always the kind of thing you don't want to see your quarterback doing. He was pressured once again with the rush coming off of the left side, and now we're going to take a look at the replay here.
He steps up into the pocket, and with really nowhere to run and having been hit a few times, lets one go that he shouldn't have to Craig Spear, who's running an in, took it upfield. Really a wise play by the crafty and fifth-year player, Dave Agro. Another huge pick in the goal line for him.
So 3 times inside the 20. Gales only have 3 points this afternoon. Josh Alexander, the man providing the pressure that time. Handoff goes to Medler. He tripped up by his fullback that time, O.J. Tassi, making the stop, if you will, for the Gales.
And defense responds with another great job against the run of the solid run game that Laurier has, and as Laurier's defense reacts, so is Queen's defense by really not allowing much. 1 point so far, and it was on a missed field goal. So the defense of both sides are really making this a seesaw battle here.
Medler averaging 8 yards a carry coming into the game. Just 3.6 right now in this afternoon's matchup. High formation right now. 3 receivers to the far side. Fumble on the play. And Adams is going to be able to fall on it quickly. So great job, James, just as you said, by the Gaels defense to try and get the ball back quickly. Adams falling down. And if he was going to get up and try and run with it, he was going to get pasted by James Godrow.
Well, you'd have to expect that of a third-string quarterback that hasn't had as many reps, just even taking snaps in practice going into the season, that he was going to, there are going to be mistakes, and we see one there. It's a small thing, but it turns out to be a big play for the Golden Hawks here.
Okay, so Gales now should get good field position after this punt off the foot of Ed Becker. Again, McKinnon and Crawford, Brian Crawford back to receive. A wobbly punt, and McKinnon's going to come up to take it inside Laurier territory at the 53-yard line. Goes to the left side, now comes back near side, and he's got a lane inside the 45-yard line, inside the 40, and he's finally pushed out of bounds. That time making the tackle is Brian Hickey. James, a nice 13-yard return that time by McKinnon is going to give the Gales excellent field position at the Laurier 39-yard line.
And one of the things you love to see, Sean McKinnon, he just constantly surprises. He'll finish off a play there nicely. Instead of just stepping out of bounds, he runs into the Laurier player, delivers a blow, and that's the kind of thing that Coach Ian really likes about Sean, is that he isn't necessarily the same physical talent as Ian Fleming or some of the other receivers, but he really brings a really good attitude. He's a real scrapper.
Okay, 1:23 left here in the first quarter. Gales up 3-1, even though they've been able to move the ball well this afternoon. Dennison, loads of time. Now he's going to have to scramble away, looks to get the ball downfield, and it's complete on the play. Nice job picking the ball up off the shoe top is John Northcote. Northcote, of course, had that big game-winning touchdown in the Ottawa game, and that's going to make it now second and about 3. Dennison that time forced to scramble away from Justin Shackle, the left defensive tackle.
The Golden Hawks are doing a good job of covering the deep routes in the second quarter, and Tommy having to scramble just to get a short gain, but a great catch by John Northcote there.
7 different receivers have caught a pass this afternoon for the Gaels. The one that hasn't so far is Brad Smith. Dennison again, and he's going to be wrapped up. Another sack, the 4th so far here in the first half. Coming up to make the pressure that time is Matt Kruchek. So that's 4 sacks this afternoon for 29 yards, and that's now going to force the Gaels to punt the ball away here with 54 seconds left here in the first half.
And I think what we're seeing Laurier take advantage of here is they have an extremely physically strong and dominating defensive line, and the Queen's offensive line boasts a couple of all-conference players in Ida and Landon, but a rookie at right tackle and a rookie O-lineman, Mike Johnson, a converted fullback who actually played a year at Laurier. So there's 2 guys in that line with no experience prior to this season that are probably being exposed a little bit at this point.
Okay, Brogan Hill gets the ball away, comes down right on the goal line to right, And Wright's able to get only about a 3-yard return that time, so a good job punting that time by Broken Hill. 39 yards on the kick, 3-yard the return that time by Wright. And you almost wonder, there's still 33 seconds left. Gaels still have their timeout. If if the Gaels are able to stop them here, you might not have a chance at getting a touchdown coming down, but certainly a chance for a field goal here.
Well, 33 seconds with all their timeouts left, and the ability to use the sideline and Tom's quick release to maybe get a few yards, some first downs, and get Roger out there, maybe even a shot downfield. Maybe we'll see Brad Smith get his first reception of the day.
Okay, Gaels defense coming in this afternoon, ranked 3rd against the rush, and they've been doing a great job. Just 2 first downs this afternoon for these visiting Laurier Golden Hawks. Chris Adams, the quarterback, is going to get things going from their own 3-yard line. Handoff to Medler. He bumps into one of his own defensive linemen. He's going to be wrapped up. It's a team visit that time by the Gaels defense. After about 5 yards, Gaels are going to call a timeout here quickly with just 28 seconds left here in the first half. So 5 yards that time the gain for Medler. And while he's, James, while he's getting, he's right now, Medler on this afternoon is up to 47 yards. Decent afternoon, decent half for a running back. But they've been unable to string anything together, only the 2 first downs, as we just mentioned.
Yeah, and it attributed, I think, to the adjustments that the defense has made this week. Coach Tracy and the defense using basically 4 linebackers throughout the game. You'll notice the rookie Ross is he lines up at halfback, but comes up aggressively on the run anytime he reads run inside. They've done a really good job preventing Medler from breaking loose and getting a long gain, a couple of first downs. It's a really good job so far, and they have spent quite a bit of time on the field, as we talked about, 8 minutes in the first quarter alone.
Okay, so Laurier coming out, 2 receivers to each side. Glover and Medley in behind Adams for the 2nd and 5. Pitch out to Medler, far side. He tries to get around the corner, and he gets wrapped up after about a 3-yard gain that time. Great job coming up to make the tackle. Adam Ross on the play. However, it's going to bring up 3rd and about 2 yards here. So 22 seconds left here in the first half. Gaels are going to use up their 2nd timeout, and great job once again by the Gaels defense, as they're going to get the ball back in great field position so far this afternoon in terms of punt returns for the Gaels. Crawford 40 yards in punt returns, McKinnon 30, and Brad Smith with 6, so 76 yards on punt returns this afternoon. Good job once again by the Gaels, and if they can get a good one here, they should be able to be set up to get at least a field goal here.
Well, it's been a real strength of the Gaels the past 2 weeks, and Brian Crawford's always a threat. He can make really big plays happen from out of nowhere, it appears, and hopefully he can set up something nice here, and who knows, maybe break his first punt return touchdown.
Becker right now standing in his end zone, and you wonder if they might even concede a safety, or are they going to leave it up to their defense to try and stop up the Gaels.
That's how well they're playing. You expect them to send the D out there and try and prevent the Gaels from getting in the end zone.
Becker does indeed boot the ball away. Spiraling kick. Just a 37-yarder coming down to Crawford. Gets in across the 40-yard line, down to the 35-yard line, and a flag comes out and hits Sean McKinnon in the back, so you can expect to be a holding or an illegal block penalty going against McKinnon, negating what would have been about a 17-yard return that time by Crawford.
He just seems to find yards out of nowhere. It looked like there was nowhere to go, and he rushed right up the middle there, followed his blocks, and powered his way for 17 yards. Unfortunately, it is going to come back.
So Crawford will get about a 12-yard return that time. The penalty takes the ball back out to the Laurier 49-yard line, just outside the Laurier 49-yard line. 11 seconds left here in the first half, as the Gaels are going to go and try and get a last-second touchdown here. Laurier giving up a last-second touchdown in the first half last weekend in the loss to McMaster. 6 receivers out on this pass pattern, and there's a holding flag in the backfield right now, as Dennison was wrapped up after about 1 yard, a 1-yard gain, and you wonder if it might be defensive holding, as the penalty was thrown all the way down on the Laurier 25-yard line. And this is the kind of thing, if you're being beaten as a defensive back, James, you're going to give up the holding penalty because it doesn't go to the spot of the foul. it's simply a 10-yard penalty.
It's a very smart play. Players are coached to do it. And a 40-yard, a penalty that occurs 40 yards downfield only travels the maximum of 15 yards. So smart play by the defense if the defender thought he was going to get burnt.
So no sack on the play. Gives the Gaels another first down now with the ball at the Laurier 39-yard line. Dennison up under center. And he's going to look out in the flat, tries to get it to Spear quickly, and he gets tackled. And there's about 1/10 of a second left on the clock here. First down yardage. A 15-yard completion to Craig Spear. And it's, I looked at the clock as Craig Spear caught the ball. He was tackled immediately on the play. And there was still about 7/10 left. Another half a second moving off the clock that time. So now Levac is going to be on to try his second field goal officially of the game. He made one that was wiped out from about the 30-yard line. This one's going to be from the 26-yard line. He was good on his first attempt. This will be the last play of the first half. A good snap. McKinnon puts it down. Levac puts it up. And it's wide to the right. And now Agro's going to try, and he kicks the ball back out of the end zone. McKinnon is back. And he gets the ball, and he's going to try and pick it up at the 50. Agro was coming up to try and make the tackle. No yards is the call on the play. And interesting to see now with that no yards what the ruling is going to be, if that's going to give the Gaels a chance to kick the ball again. A smart play that time by Agro, who is not a punter, but showed his athleticism. And that's what you often see in Canadian football, kicking the ball back out of the end zone. The no yards is wiped away as Agro was the man rushing up to try and tackle McKinnon. So with the score at the end of the first half, right now it's 3-1 for the Queens Golden Gaels over the visiting Laurier Golden Hawks. And earlier on we talked about some of the injury difficulties that the Laurier Golden Hawks have had. And right now we're going to send it down to Bill Miklas on the field.
Guys, and I'm down here on the sidelines with a fellow that would like to be playing here in Kingston, Belleville native Ryan Pierre, who was the starting quarterback of the Laurier Golden Hawks, but he was injured 2 weeks ago in the game against Toronto. Ryan, maybe talk a bit about how the injury happened. It was to your knee.
Yeah, it was a roll pass play action rollout. I got hit by Wheeler, the middle linebacker for Toronto, and it knocked me over my knee. And when I tried to plant, it was just too much weight on my knee, and it just buckled and tore both ligaments and dislocated my knee. It was done for the season.
So then in goes the backup to you, Partington. He gets hurt last week.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a tough season. I mean, it's like Murphy's Law, whatever back and half will go happen. I mean, he tore his MCL against the Master last week, and now we're down to our third string who's playing pretty well first half.
Now, the final verdict on your knee, what was the damage?
I secondary tear my MCL. I completely tore my ACL. I'll need surgery this Thursday. 6 to 9 months rehab after surgery, and take it from there, I guess.
So hopefully for next season.
Yeah, hopefully I'm gonna work hard this offseason, make sure I come back and I'll be the same player as I was this year and I was last year, and hopefully I'll be even better.
Now, Ryan Pierre here gets a lot of help in his rehab at home because he's got two brothers, an older brother, Kyle, that plays at McMaster, and a twin brother, Tobin, born 10 minutes earlier, I hear, that's at Waterloo.
Yeah, 10 minutes earlier. Growing up, and it was great having those guys around. And Kyle's always the running back, Tobin was defensive back, I was the quarterback. Used to scrimmage in our backyard. My dad was a coach. Of course, he coached my high school team. And both my parents are really supportive. They're always at every game. Right now, my dad's at the Guelph Waterloo game, and my mom's watching Kyle play against Ottawa.
So with Tobin, you had sort of told me before the game that you both had decided you didn't want to go to the same school. So you didn't, but you ended up in the same city.
Yeah, the fact that we ended up in the same city was just by chance. All through high school, we've always been considered the twins. We wanted to be individuals for once, and so we kind of made a decision before school started that we were going to go to different schools. And it was by chance that we ended up in the same city, and it's worked out pretty well, actually.
Now, you guys played each other first game of the season. Did he get a chance to get a hit on you?
Yeah, he was on a couple of assisted tackles, but on the field, there's so much adrenaline going. Like, you don't even have time to talk to each other. You almost see him as an opponent, not even a brother sometimes.
Okay, now quickly about this game. You guys have to love the position you're in, 3-1.
Yeah, 3-1. Our defense played really strong. We're getting some good field position with our offense, and hopefully we can carry it over the second half and just capitalize on the opportunities we get.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for this, Ryan, and hope to see you next year.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, that was Ryan Peer, the starting quarterback of the Laurier Golden Hawks, injured 2 weeks ago. We'll be back with a halftime show. You're watching Golden Gaels football on Cogeco 13.
This telecast of Queen's Golden Gaels football is sponsored by Cogeco. Cogeco, bringing you the best in local sports coverage.
Being busy, is that all you people talk about? Hang up the cell phone. Instead of ringing up excuses why you can't improve the life of a child, why not take a break from being busy to become a big brother? It's safe, it's rewarding, it only costs a few hours a week, and best of all, it's fun. And you remember what fun is, right? Think about it.
And we're back here at halftime. Bill Miklas along with James McLean and Donnie Lewis. Queens leading Laurier 3-1. But when you look at the stats, and I'll start with James, Laurier has to be ecstatic with the way things are going. They're producing turnovers, and they're limiting Tom Dennison's effectiveness in the air.
Well, it's not that Queens isn't passing the ball at all, but it's that when they get in the red zone, they're turning it over. Tom making a few bad reads, receivers dropping one or two. And I think also we have to give Laurier credit. Their DBs and their defense are making outstanding plays. Inside the red zone, Queens is not being effective, and particularly with the turnovers, not even getting field goals or any points off of those. And be big in the second half if they can eliminate turnovers completely.
So obviously Queens, from a Queens perspective, they should have more points on the board.
Definitely at least 9. And I'm sure that if we asked Coach Sheehan, he'd say 15, maybe 18 points at this point in the game, with a couple bad reads, maybe by the quarterback, some miscommunication, and some outstanding play by the Laurier defense.
Okay, and turn to Donnie Lewis, and from a Laurier point of view, they just haven't had the ball enough.
No, they haven't. And, talking to Gary Jeffries, their head coach, before the game, he said they wanted to win the time of possession battle. They won it in the first quarter, but they only had the ball for about 2.5 minutes in the second quarter. And if the Gaels can continue to hold on to the ball for that long, eventually they are going to wear out this Laurier defense. And, right now we talked about one of the keys for Queens was to be able to rush the ball, get a little more balance. They've been able to do a good job. Both teams carrying the ball today for 49 yards. The Gaels, of course, being able to throw it for a lot more. One of the things we're talking about just before coming on air here is the amount of time that Tommy Dennison is looking deep downfield. Laurier's been able to stop that right now. You take a look at one of the Gaels' big play receivers. Brad Smith has touched the ball once today. That was on a punt return.
And obviously for Laurier, just keep up the pass defense because they're getting a lot of pressure on Dom as well.
They are. And 4 sacks, 3 of those coming in the second half. And they're not just the 2 or 3 yard sack. They're the 10 or 11, 12 yard sack that really takes you out of a drive, takes you out of field position. One of them forcing the punt at the end of the first half. Instead of going for what would have been a field goal to make it 6-1, they missed the field goal on the last play of the first half. So right now, a very frustrating game for the Gaels. If you're a Laurier team, you're battling for your playoff lives here. And that you're tied right now for 7th. You have to move up at least 1 spot for the playoffs right now. And the longer they can keep this close, the better it is for them, as we always say for any underdog.
Okay, so we'll be back with the second half. It's 3-1 Queens. You're watching Golden Gaels football on Cogeco 13.
Open to a bigger, brighter world of entertainment? It's already in your cable. Let it in by ordering Cogeco Digital TV today. You get more movies, sports, documentaries, music, superior digital quality in any weather, and more freedom to choose what you want to watch. What's more? Order any digital bundle now, save $75 instantly on a digital box. Call 1-888-6-COGECO and fill your home with digital TV. From Cogeco, there's more in your cable.
And welcome back to second half coverage right now. Queens leading 3-1. Laurier 2 plays and out on the first punt. Ed Becker back to punt. Gets away a 37-yard punt coming down to Brian Crawford. He gets a nice return out across the 45-yard line. Give him about 12 yards that time. For the Gaels, big number 35, one of the leading punt returners in the nation, and James Crawford looking a little bit dinged coming up after that play.
Well, that's bad news, but that, you know, if you play football, you might get a little bit dinged. I imagine he'll be back.
Okay, as the Gaels come out to get set for their first possession of the second half, we're going to send it down to Bill Miklas on the sideline.
Talk to both benches, guys, starting with Laurier, and in both cases they're both ecstatic with the way their defenses are playing. Laurier wants to make sure that they get a little bit more pressure on Tom Dennison, even because they know the longer he holds the ball, the more likely that he'll get an open receiver. Also, they need to move the football. We talked about that in our halftime show. They want more production out of their offense. On the Queens side of things, very happy with the defense. Andrew Stead says the offense just needs to punch it in more. They're going to do a little different on their blocking scheme in one particular package, just to limit the pass pressure that's getting on Tom Dennison. Other than that, everybody's staying with their same game plans. They just want to execute a little better when they've got the football.
Thanks, Bill, and you can credit Sheldon Weeks with 4 yards in that first down carry. He checks out. Sean McKinnon coming into the game. The Gaels now in their more familiar passing set. 4 receivers coming out in the near side. Dennison, time to pass. He now has to scramble away. Tries to get away from the first tackler. Does a good job scrambling away. He's going to throw the ball deep downfield for Fleming. And it gets tipped away at the last second. David Agro, and once again, James, and I hate to harp on this, but the third interception was throwing it late over the middle. That time Dennison thought he had Fleming open. And then a good job that time by the Laurier secondary to shut things down.
Well, first, I think on that play, you have to credit the O-line with giving Tom a lot of time. The DBs, Laurier obviously doing a good job of covering the Queens receiver downfield, and Tom Dennison waiting late, throwing deep over the middle. Not what you want to see, a pass barely broken up and almost interception, almost a reception. You'd like to see a little bit more solid play from the quarterback at this point in the game, in a tight game.
Okay, Brogdenhill gets a wobbly punt away, coming down the Laurier receiver on his 25-yard line. He fumbles. However, it's going to be recovered by the Golden Hawks, and that time back to take the kick was Jeff Keane, one of their big return men, and he fumbled the ball, and I believe it was recovered by Jesse Alexander. We've been calling Alexander's name a lot this afternoon.
Well,
so now Laurier will be getting things going from their own 31-yard line. That could have been the break that the Gaels needed, and it's not the kind of play you would expect to see from an experienced returner.
You would not. You never want to see that. I have no idea what he was thinking on that play. That's probably the worst thing you can do on special teams is dive at a loose ball.
Okay, so Adams under center again, I formation. Glover in front of Medler in the backfield. He's going to drop back to pass. Gets the ball away, complete this time. And a nice pickup that time by Andrew Agro. He's going to get first down yardage. That's a passing first down this afternoon for the Golden Hawks. And credit him that time with an 11-yard gain.
Nice little crossing routes there. Quarterback showed some patience, delivered an accurate ball just the other side of Andrew Pepin. That was close to a big hit, but nice play by the Laurier offense, showing some spark here early in the second half.
Just one pass attempt in the second quarter. And 2 already here in the at the beginning of the third quarter here. Right at their own 42-yard line are the Golden Hawks. Inside handoff goes to Medler, and he's going to be able to break up for a nice 6-yard carry that time, setting it up on the trap play that time. Pepin coming up to make the tackle for the Golden Gaels.
Well, this is going to be a big story of the second half, I'd say. With a 3-1 score, it's a tight ball game. Whether this fullback lead offense that Laurier likes to run, where fullback leads up, tailback falls and finds a hole and slashes for Medler, in this case, slashes for some yards, whether they'll be able to maintain that getting first downs against this strong Queens defense.
One of the keys we mentioned early on was Laurier trying to hold time of possession. So far now, 2nd and 4. Blitz coming on. He's able to get the ball complete away downfield. That big play coming down, rumbling inside the Gaels' half is Brian Hickey. All the way down to the 20-yard line, fumbles a ball. It's recovered by Laurier down to the Gaels' 16-yard line. So a big pass and run play for the Laurier Golden Hawks that time.
Well, I think I'll rewind the transcript there, and I'll eat my words. They go to the air to get a big play. Their first big play of the half. Good play action, very effective when you're running the ball well, and great speed out of their backup running back. Runs away from Queens DB. Kurt McClellan makes the big hit, but Johnny on the spot looked like it was Agro Jr.
Okay, so 46 yards that time on the pass and run play. And in the second half here, 3 completions, 8 attempts, ball overthrown that time for Adams for 57 yards. He only had 16 yards through the air in the first half. Derek Cox that time the intended receiver, but right now Laurier with the ball deep in Queen's territory have a chance, even if they get stopped here on 2nd and 10, to try and kick a go-ahead field goal.
Well, time for a big play, just like Laurier has done on the other side of the ball. Queens has to find a veteran to make a big play here and make a statement as Laurier reels off some plays against a solid Queens defense.
Okay, Adams, I formation, drops back, actually rolls out to the far side to pass. Ball thrown complete across the middle and wrapped up on the play. Another fumble coming up here, and it's recovered by the Gaels. And James McLean, our foreseeing color commentator here, saying the defense had to come up with a big play. Mark Mitchell makes the hit. And I'm not sure who made the recovery on the play for the Gaels. And we're now going to take a look at this on the replay. Pass completed over the middle, and then the Gaels just trying to strip away at the ball. And the completion was made to Cox. And it's going to be Mitchell coming up with the recovery that time.
Well, the quarterback never really set his feet there and delivered the ball nonetheless, but Mark Mitchell making up for a missed tackle on Medler earlier in the game. Great play, huge play for the Gaels.
So the Gaels, though, deep in their own end. Dennison coming out in the shotgun, throwing the ball over the middle. Complete drop by Spear. He had the ball and then looked to try and run with it really before he caught it. Stephen Frake on the coverage that time for the Golden Hawks.
Well, we've seen it a few times from Craig so far this season. Not quite finishing the play there. At this point in the field and in the game, it's important for Queens to get some first downs, march the ball a little bit, and unfortunately couldn't come up with the play. One thing to notice, Tom Dennison seems to be a little indecisive out there. Kind of rushing things, a little jittery. Hopefully he can settle down here, 2nd and long, deep in their end, and get a big play. Like Tom Dennison will usually come out of this situation with a first down.
14 of 24 right now, 3 interceptions and 190 yards here early in the 3rd quarter for Dennison. Dropping straight back to pass, pressure comes on, throws the ball out of the backfield to McKinnon. He tries to get around the corner and he's going to be unable to get first down yardage. Up helping to block on the play with Brian Crawford. And you don't often see a flat pass route thrown to one of your inside receivers like that, but good job that time by the Laurier secondary, and linebackers coming up to make the stop. Just a 6-yard gain that time for McKinnon, so Brookdenhill is going to be on to punt the ball away with the snap coming from his own 15-yard line.
Well, it looks like Sean came from the wide side all the way across on an under route, and that's why he ended up in the same area as Brian Crawford running the out from the backfield. And look, Brian Crawford picked up one, but not Rohan, the gentleman who made the tackle and an outstanding football player.
Okay, so it's going to be Wright and Smeaton back to receive this punt. And Brookdenhill gets a good ball away. And actually, check that. Coming down to Keene on his own 50-yard line. He's able to break up field, eluding a couple of tacklers, and he gets about 13 yards on the return. A 45-yard punt that time by Will Brookdenhill.
A bit of a surprise here. Laurier comes out of the halftime, buoyed by their 1-point performance in the first half, but only allowing 3 against a Queens team that's probably strong or heavily favored coming into the game, and they're playing right with them, and they're showing a lot of energy here, making plays. So it's up to the once again this game. It's up to the Queens defense to hold the Hawks to little or few points.
Okay, this drive is going to get started at the Queens 49-yard line for Laurier. And a legal procedure as the whole left side of the offensive line. That's going to be Ryan Jeffrey and Bill Gert now in at left offensive guard. Both of them moving before the ball was snapped. So it's going to be 1st and 15 now against the Golden Hawks.
Put them in a hole. Maybe, hopefully they'll have to try and pass here, although they had a little bit of success with it. I don't know that the offensive coordinator, Tuffy Knight, wants to have the quarterback throw too much on a windy day like this in a tight ball game, but we'll see what they do on 2nd and 15 here. Interesting call for the O coordinator.
Well, when they've been able to complete the ball here right now this afternoon for Chris Adams, it's been on what you would really have to call very safe pass routes. And that, it's not the kind of thing when the Gaels defense is going to be sitting back there, as Laurier's is with 6 or 7 DBs waiting, and that's why we're seeing him getting a couple of big plays. But, you know, they are on things when it's almost sort of misdirecting the way the Queens defense is set up.
And it's off the run, which is very important because Queens is looking for run. They give a play-action pass look, and then they have open receivers because of it.
Okay, Gaels right now 7 men in the box, and Adams is going to drop back to pass pressure. He's going to throw it back to Medler here in the near side, and coming up to make the tackle. It looked as though Gaudreau was trying to get him initially. However, after a decent gain, Adam Ross able to wrap him up after about 9 yards that time. A backside screen. So again, showing some misdirection here. Is this Laurier offense? 8 yards that time on the reception. Here in the second half right now, 3 of 5 for Adams for 66 yards. So it'll bring up 2nd and 7. And the ball is going to be snapped from the Gaels' 45-yard line. I formation for Laurier. Dropping back to pass again is Adams. He gets hit almost just after he throws it. Catching the ball and then stepping back on the play is Joel Wright. If he had dove forward, he might have had the first down. It's going to be a 5-yard reception on the play. It's going to make it 3rd and 2. And expect to see Laurier come out with the jumbo backfield here. Actually, it's 3rd and a long 2, almost 3 yards here.
Really a bad decision by the receiver there. Joel Wright was short of the first down by maybe a yard. Decided he might backstep the defender and then go around him. Really, you're right. Should have just fallen forward, gotten what he could, and given the team at 3rd and short or maybe even the first down there.
Dave Brown checking out. Chris McIntyre in for the Gaels. As now Laurier is going to go for it here on 3rd and a long 2. Jumbo backfield right now for the Golden Hawks. Adams calling out the signals. And it's an inside handoff, and it looks as though he might be short of the first down. Ball handed off to Brian Hickey that time, and they're spotting it right on the 40-yard line, and Laurier had to get inside the 40, so the second consecutive time that the Gaels defense have come up with a big play. And now as the Gaels offense comes back on the field, we're going to send it down on the sideline to Bill Meklis.
Okay, quickly, guys, the discussion down here by the officials with the Queens bench, first the Laurier bench. Laurier only has 1 working headset. Queens had 2. Laurier wanted to make sure Queens only was using 1. That's what the referees told them. Until it's all fixed up, they both use 1 headset.
So we take a look at some other scores around the conference right now. Just 4 points on the board here. Just 4 points on the board up in Ottawa. Mac leading the GGs 4-0. It's a fake end around to Brad Smith. Dennison dropping back to pass. Completes it to Frood. First down yardage across center field. Into Laurier territory at the 52-yard line. 17-yard completion that time for John Frood. And Dennison able to get his first completion of the second half. That puts him over 200 yards on this afternoon.
Nice little play.
Second completion.
Sorry, Don. Nice little play there. The Golden Gaels set up a few different looks there. They give a run look, they give an round look, and then a little bootleg with a dump off to John Frood. Nice little play, Western-esque, giving the defense multiple looks before actually revealing what they're doing.
213 yards passing now. It's going to be an inside handoff to Weeks, and he gets met after gaining a couple yards that time by big Rowan Thompson of Laurier. Ball inside the 50-yard line now. 4 yards that time on the carry for Weeks.
One thing will be very important for the Gaels here as the quarter continues, as it winds down, is manage, not necessarily get the big score right away, but get some first downs. Get their team some momentum back. Seesaw battle. Laurier's come out here with some energy, like we mentioned. Very important if they can get a first down here on the 2nd and 6.
3 carries this afternoon for Weeks. And it's going to be Andrew Smith, lone man in the backfield. He comes up to the line to help block. Dennison gets pressured, throws the ball downfield, complete. Oh, and knocked away at the last second. Frood had it, juggled it, and then it was knocked away by Connor Healy, who had a big pick in the first half.
Well, you've got to start blaming somebody, and I think the receivers for Queens have had a bit of a tough day so far. They've dropped probably 3 or 4 balls they should have caught. That was definitely, I think, one that John Frood will wish he had back. I think Tom stepped up nicely in the pocket, delivered the ball nicely. As we catch the replay here, I think this is hopefully what we'll see.
Again, pressure being applied to Tommy Dennison that time. He was able to get away from it here.
Yeah, he steps up nicely, and that's a ball that went right through John's hands.
And Brogdenhill gets away a spiraling kick, and it bounces out of bounds at the Laurier And it's going to go out of bounds at the 19-yard line. So you can credit Brokenhill that time with a 29-yard punt. Good job that time, allowing no return by this Laurier return team. And James, we talked about it at halftime. The job the Gaels have done on special teams, especially with the coverage teams, kick coverage teams, has been excellent here this afternoon.
This afternoon and throughout the season, very little return yards against them, and no major scored. One important thing to note, Queen's offense, they're starting to see man coverage, safety over top. See if they can take advantage of that by going over top like they have in past games.
Again, Brad Smith, Gaels' leading receiver, third in the country coming into this game. No catches here this afternoon. Pitch going out to Medler. Gaels able to string it out. Good job that time to come up and make the tackle is Mark Mitchell. Kurt McClellan and Corey Trudeau doing a good job prior to that, able to string it out. And Medler's going to lose about 3.5, 4 yards on the play.
Great job by the defense. I think that's a testament to how well they are prepared by Coach Tracy for a very different type of offense than they're probably used to facing. Week to week in the OUA, one of the things you note is that you do face a lot of different offenses every week. In this case, a lot of power inside and then sweep run. Great job there.
And the Laurier Golden Hawk mascot, if you will, losing the battle to Boohoo on the far side of the field in the Laurier end zone. It's going to bring up 2nd and 10 now, 2nd and 14, for Adams. He's going to throw the ball downfield, and intending the ball for Chad McAveely, a ball well overthrown, and then a late flag coming in for pass interference against the Gaels. Looks as though it's going to go against Gaels defensive back Dave Brown, one of the rookies they have starting in the defensive secondary this afternoon. However, the referees coming in, they may say that the ball was uncatchable, and they may simply pick up the flag. Laurier, though, right now hoping that they're going to, and indeed that's what the call is. They dropped the flag, ball was uncatchable. It's now going to bring up 3rd and 10 here. So a good job by the Gaels being able to adjust a little bit here, but we are seeing a couple of open receivers here, although it doesn't look as though the Laurier quarterback right now, Chris Adams, has quite enough touch to get it right on the receiver.
Well, a very smart plan is to go after the younger players in the Queen's defense. In this case, you had a rookie in Brown and Ross playing halfback and corner. One receiver, a 50-year guy going against them. It's not a bad decision, experience over youth. And fortunately, the Gaels got away with one maybe there. Maybe they were lucky to get the flag picked up.
Okay, 9th punt of the afternoon for Becker, and he gets a nice kick. It's going to be a 38-yard punt coming down to McKinnon at the 54-yard line, and he's going to return it back upfield about 3 yards, actually stepped back. He was inside the 50. He's wrapped up by a couple of Laurier tacklers, including Steve Soria out on special teams. So the Gaels, once again, though, starting off with good field position at the Laurier 51-yard line.
Lots of possessions here, lots of punts so far in the game, and well, it's we're getting to the point now where you think, Bill Nicholas mentioned it at halftime, next touchdown wins already and early in the third quarter.
These teams, of course, had a titanic back-and-forth tilt last year in the playoffs. Gaels managing to win with 9 seconds left. Nathan Gore, number 9, with the reception, the game winner that time. Holding looks to be coming up here. Dennison passing out to Spear in the flat. He gets knocked out of bounds after first down yardage, so we're going to have to wait and see what the flag is going to be. Nice play-action look that time from the Gaels offense. And it's a legal procedure coming up here against the Gaels. That's going to negate that first down pass, and it's going to make it 1st and 15.
So double coverage there on our leading receiver for the Gaels. Running a corner route, still managed to get reasonably open, but the Laurier defense definitely paying attention to him and making sure that on a given play they don't lose him, because all it takes is one play for him to run deep down the seam and, like he has so many times, make a big play here for the Gaels.
Frustrating afternoon for Tommy Dennison, losing another completion there, and started to see that a little bit talking to the referees after the play. Chris Rogan, who's checked in on this play for Greg Spear, came over and said, look, Tommy, let's get things going on this second down play. And ball goes to Rogan out in the flat, tries to elude a couple of tacklers, and he takes a couple shots to look to be almost a face mask there, and then a late hit coming in at the end of the play. And waiting to see what the flag's going to be. Rogan was running for his life in the backfield there on that sort of swing pass. And
not a huge guy out there. Rogan at about 5'6", catches the little flare pass, and trying to catch the Laurier defense unprepared, and makes a few cutbacks, and then can't quite see it there if there was one, but Looked like he claimed it.
No face mask against Laurier. It's actually going to be rough play against the Gaels. It looked as though Sean McKinnon was having a battle with Ryan Brown, the Laurier defensive back, after the play. So now it's going to bring up second. And about 29 yards here for the Gaels. Rogan is going to check out for this upcoming play.
Not a lot of plays in the playbook for 2nd and 29.
Well, we've seen some big plays this afternoon by the Gaels defense. Time for the offense to try and put together a big play here. Again, Brad Smith, no catches this afternoon for the Gaels. Dennison. He's going to throw the ball out to Andrew Smith on a screen play. Smith able to get some yardage on the play. Credit him with a 9-yard reception that time. So that's Andrew Smith's second reception this afternoon. 2 more than the Gaels' Brad Smith, rookie and top receiver on the team so far this season.
The offense looks just a little bit out of sync. Players aren't making the plays you'd like to, and you start to get a little bit of chippiness, a little bit of frustration on the part of the offense. As we see the defensive coach for the Laurier Golden Hawks, Jeffries, on the sideline there cheering on his boys.
Okay, Rodenhill, he punched the ball away, and a nice punt this time by Rodenhill. It's going to force Wright all the way back to his 10-yard line. 49-yard punt. Wright eludes a couple of tacklers, breaks one more tackle, and he gets up for a nice 15, 16-yard return that time. So a big punt that time for the Gaels, and down right now for the Gaels on the play looks to be Andrew Pepin, one of the linebackers. We talked about the depth they have, but you'd hate to see a veteran like Pepin going down at this stage in the game, or any stage in the game.
Can't really afford any injuries on a roster on such a short season, and hopefully he'll be fine. One thing to notice here is Laurier, team that's lost a lot of tight ball games, but has fought and scrapped with every team late into the game, are showing those same characteristics today against Queens Golden Gaels. They seem to be making more plays and having more energy in the second half so far. The 13 minutes into the second half. Still 3-1 here. Hard to believe. Johnny, I don't know. What do you think?
Just 2:14 left here in the second quarter, and you talk about that energy that Laurier is showing in terms of making plays. We'll take a look at the Gaels' offense, and James, you mentioned it on that last drive, their inability to make some plays here. Just 32 yards passing for Dennison here in the second half. So again, we're seeing some of the frustration for this Gaels' offense, and Pepin, good to see, as Dave Ross, Gaels' trainer, goes on the field. Pepin able to run off the field under his own steam. So Laurier going to get things going here from just outside their own 26-yard line. Again, 2:14 here in the second half. Laurier is actually outpassed. Chris Adams is outpassed Tommy Dennison here in this third quarter. The officials coming over to confer with, I'm sure, another frustrated man, Pat Sheehan, on the Gaels sideline. And the Gaels fans, cheerleaders, trying to pump up the team here. Be time for another big defensive stand. Both teams have struggled inside the red zone, and that 2 turnovers so far and 1 big sack between the two teams. Gaels turning the ball over on an interception. Laurier fumbling the ball at the Gaels' 9-yard line earlier on.
Well, just checking the stats here, it looks like Laurier is starting to make up the time of possession difference that we noticed in the first half. 10 minutes only in the first half, up to 17 now versus the Gaels' 25. That's a big thing for them, and having talked to their coach, Jeffries, before the game, that's one thing he mentioned that was important, that they do possess the ball, keep the Queens offense off the field, getting it done.
It's the kind of challenge that the Gaels' second-year pivot, third year of eligibility, but second year as a starting quarterback, Tommy Dennison. He hadn't had this kind of challenge necessarily in his career. Frustrating day. Adams dropping back to pass, throws the ball intended across the middle that time, and well behind Andrew Agro. Coming up to make the hit on the play for the Gaels was Adam Ross. And again, we see the lack of, I guess, direction, if you want to call it. He can't quite pick out the receiver necessarily as well as Dennison can.
Just not as accurate, although Tom today's had his struggles as well. But definitely, just without the experience and without the practice that you get from taking regular snaps all throughout the season in practice, in the preseason, and it shows a little bit here. Yeah, you're right.
And you wonder if this increased passing attack we've seen here in the second half by the Laurier Golden Hawks may be a response to the fact that the Gaels have done a great job against Laurier's rush this afternoon. Screenplay coming out to Medler in on the left side here. Up for big first down yardage, and he's could be gone. 45, 35, traced by Curtis McLeod all the way downfield. There is a flag in behind the play. That would be an 84-yard pass and run play. However, there is a flag in behind the play, holding Laurier, and it's going to come back. So a huge play is wiped out on a penalty here, and that's the kind of thing you often see by a young team, but a great job setting that play up that time by the Laurier offense.
Well, as we see the replay here, it shows outstanding speed in Medler. Good blocks, but young Queen's defense, a lot of players overflowing, not maintaining their responsibilities. Only one player back on the backside of that play with 3 blockers trying to break it up. Great luck, and it looks as though Queens has avoided a huge problem, and Laurier has been snake bitten once again by a flag. If you look back to last year in the playoff game against Laurier, they scored what would appear to be a touchdown on a fumble, about a 50-yard return by their safety, and it happens once again here today.
Okay, now in the first half, Laurier's first down of the game came through 2 consecutive Gaels penalties, and Gary Jeffries right now looks as though either he or his bench have also got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty called against them. So that now it's going to be 16 yards, I believe, in penalties there. Sorry, check that, 18 yards of penalty. 2nd and 28 now coming up for Laurier here.
What a turnaround.
A huge turnaround. Laurier backed all the way up to their own 8-yard line after they had thought they had scored an 85-yard pass and run play to Derek Medler. Adams, I formation. Glover and Medler in behind him. Adams going to drop back to pass. Looking over the middle again, and it's complete all the way up to the 32-yard line. That time, nice completion up there. It's going to be well short of first down to Derek Cox. So a nice 21-yard completion on the time.
Well, they take advantage there of a linebacker lined up on looks like he's playing wide receiver for them, listed as a slot back, and makes a very big gain on what was a substantial second down play. Luckily for the Gaels, he comes up 5 yards short of the first down.
If nothing else for Laurier, though, it does get Ed Becker out of the shadow of his own goalpost there.
And the field position battle, again, like we mentioned, very important in a 3-point game. A safety ties the game at this point.
So Becker able to get the ball away. A wobbly punt off the side of his foot. And it's going to bounce down at the Gaels' 53-yard line. No yards on the penalty. Crawford tries to get away. Just a 23-yard punt that time for Becker, and about a 3-yard return for Brian Crawford. Crawford asking the officials if there's no yards, and we're seeing a lot more of this right now, James, as the Gaels a little bit frustrated, talking a lot to the officials, questioning some of the calls or non-calls after a number of plays here in the second half.
Well, it's the first time this year since the McMaster game that the Gaels have probably found themselves in a situation where they're really struggling, and against McMaster, of course, the time clock officiating was questioned, but not the way to respond. The way to respond is with a big play.
And Brian Crawford gets the ball out in the flat, but he's tackled after just a 2-yard gain that time by Ryan Brown. We talked, going back to Ed Becker, tremendous average early in the game, but now he's back down to his regular season average, 10 punts, 40.8 yards. And now the Gaels going in a quick play, no-huddle offense here. Dennison in the shotgun. Now he's going to come up under center John Landon, 2nd and 7. Dennison looks quickly out in the flat, looking for Northcote. Northcote slips down at the Laurier 46-yard line, so that's going to make it at the end of the third quarter. It'll make it about 3rd and 3 to begin the fourth quarter here. So again, no points scored by either team here in the second half. 3-1, again the score at the end of 3 quarters, and it looks as though the Gaels are going to punt the ball away when we begin the fourth stanza.
Very subtle change in Queen's attitude here. Instead of going down the field, they're trying to attack the flats, it looks like now. Take the quick 3-step drop by the quarterback, quick release, just take what Laurier is offering. Looks like John Northcote, they're calling his reception no good. They're saying officials look like they're saying he bobbled the ball, and they're saying it's going to be 3rd and 7, I think.
Although actually, no, now they have changed their mind. They're now going to give it to him. as they're going to move the ball down to the Laurier 46-yard line. Still low. It's a good 3rd and a long 2. And no doubt about the choice this time for the Gaels coaching staff, because they're going to try and let their defense help to win this afternoon's matchup. Brogden Hill on to punt this ball away. Thought for a second there might be a fake, but he gets the ball away. And bouncing down to the 5-yard line, Laurier up to return the ball quickly. On the play is going to be Jeff Keane, but once again, good job downfield. Making the tackle that time, Troy McAllister for the Gaels. Also in there was Mike Petone. And right now, a Gale player down on the field, so that might be Corey Trudeau. That would be a huge loss for the Gaels. This afternoon, after 9 punts for Brogden Hill, he's averaging 39.6 yards. So the Gaels trying to pin Laurier back deep in their own end, starting this drive. Their first of the 4th quarter here, 14 and a half minutes left. Chris Adams is going to get things going from his own 9-yard line. Handoff goes to Medler, and he's met quickly in the hole. I don't know if he would have got back to the line of scrimmage on the play that time. Coming up to make the tackle from his linebacker position, big number 56, Andrew Pepin. So good to see that Pepin has been able to shake off the effects of that stinger back in the 3rd quarter. Credit Medler with 1 yard on that carry, so it's going to bring up 2nd and 9. Another big play coming up for this Queens defense, who've done a good job this afternoon against the Laurier offense. Glover and Medler in behind Adams, up under center. And handoff is going to go to Medler, and he's met in the backfield that time. Coming off the corner is Mark Mitchell. And he's also assisted by Jack Odro, so Medler's going to lose yardage that time, so it's going to bring up 3rd down. And we're waiting to see where the spot's going to be. It's going to be a loss of 2 yards that time for Medler, so 3rd and 11. And now decision time. You're down by just 2 points. Medler right now, 4 carries for just 1 yard here in the second half, so the Gaels defense continues to do a good job. Decision time though, James, do you concede the 2 points?
I predicted with the leading punter in the conference now that you don't offer them Queens more than a field goal lead in such a tight ball game. Make the offense work for it. Make Queens earn the points.
Okay, ball's going to be snapped away from the 8, and indeed Medler is going to concede the 2. So Laurier choosing to go for field position, but giving up the points, and now that's going to force this Laurier offense here with the score now 5-1. They're going to have to get at least a field goal if they want to overtake the Gaels.
Yeah, and if Queens gets the ball back here and they are able to get some points, then it's going to be a touchdown difference between the teams. Of course, I can probably throw out my crystal ball now because it's broken, but there's a reason to the coaches, and we'll see how that plays out. That may be a key play in the game in such a tight ball game, offering Queens almost double their lead.
So now the Gaels are going to choose to scrimmage the ball. They have the choice to either have Laurier kick the ball away. They're going to choose to scrimmage it away from their own 35-yard line. So another big stand that time for the Gaels defense. Gaels now scrimmaging from their own 35-yard line. Dennison in the shotgun formation. Crawford lone man in the backfield. Spear and Northcote near side. Fleming, Smith, and Frood on the high side. And Dennison forced to look at his second man, and the ball is batted down at the line of scrimmage by Justin Shackle. He had a couple of big plays last weekend, returning one for a touchdown on a similar play that time against McMaster. 2nd and 10 coming up here. And again, this Laurier defense able to frustrate the Queens offense.
Well, it's hard to say, but Queens has had some success. I think it'll be interesting to see if they can solve this cover 2 look that Laurier has offered with man coverage underneath, which they haven't really been able to solve very well in the second half so far.
Okay, Dennison in the shotgun, looking for Smith. He's going to throw it downfield for Fleming, and the ball is tipped. Knocked away that time by David Agro. Dennison throwing into triple coverage that time. Also back helping out Neil Both and Ryan Brown, and it looked as though he looked at Smith initially and then tried to go deep downfield to Fleming, and Smith only covered by 1 man that time. So once again, James, looks as though Dennison getting a little bit frustrated, trying to force things a bit.
Perhaps not, dropping back and necessarily reading, but anticipating a little bit. Looks like, by the end of the play, looks like triple coverage. It's in fact single coverage with 2 guys helping on the play, but really there wasn't a lot of room to fit that ball in, asking Ian Fleming to do a little too much there. And he took a big shot on that play. That's not going to be helping his confidence either. So too bad there that they weren't able to get a first down and march the ball a bit, because Queen's defense, we noticed a couple of guys kneeling so far. Their D-line's got to be getting tied with that big Laurier line leaning on them all game.
And after that big hit, David Agro going off a little bit slowly for the Golden Hawks. Broganhill gets the ball away, comes down to right, and he's going to make a couple of moves and get almost no return. 35 yards on the punt that time, just a 1-yard return. So now Laurier are going to be getting things going here just outside their own 40 to 41-yard line.
They'll have to respond to the safety offered by their team earlier and see if they can get the ball down the field, get a field goal, get some points. Nice to see the Joyceville Hay Baler, Troy McAllister getting involved on special teams, couple tackles.
So a tight 5-1 struggle here. 12:20 and counting here in the fourth quarter. I formation for Laurier. Handoff, fake handoff to Medler. Adams looks downfield. He's able to complete the ball. Getting it down to Brian Hickey, who we've seen as a decent receiver out of the backfield this afternoon. And that play is going to be good for 8 yards on, check that. 9 yards on the play, and Adam Ross for the Gaels on the tackle is going to bring up second, and maybe an inch or two here for Laurier.
The coaches have to be excited with Adam Ross, the young player who's had a chance to start today. He's taking every snap, playing halfback, comes up there and doesn't break up the play, but makes a big hit, and those are the plays that can make a difference. Next time that receiver goes to reach for a ball, he might not reach for it, he might be a little intimidated. Really showing that he's deserves to be out there and really contributing already in this early part of his career.
Gary Jeffries, acting head coach right now for the Laurier Golden Hawks, had asked the officials to call for measurement, and indeed the play is just short. 9 yards on that reception, just second and about 7 or 8 inches here. Checking into the lineup for the Gaels, Michael Petoni. Nathan Haskell comes out for this second down play. Laurier going in with their jumbo backfield.
Well, we got the crowd get pretty loud here as a key play.
Kyle Weston, Kevin McNeil, and Josh Alexander. A couple of those big men coming in now for the Golden Hawks, 2nd and 1. Full house backfield right now for Laurier. Glover and Tassi, the up men. Hickey in behind them. It's going to go to Hickey, third man through, flag on the play, and Hickey's going to get upfield for about 3 yards. Wait to see what this penalty is. Looks as though it, coming from the far side official, might be an offside call against the Gaels. Laurier clapping their hands. And actually the flag is picked up, so it's going to be a first down after a 3-yard carry that time for Brian Hickey. So 1st and 10 now for Laurier as they move up close to center field at their own 53-yard line as the sun now comes out for the first time here this afternoon. And again, the wind, if we had played this game yesterday, would have been a huge factor, but it's coming out of the west, moving across the field this afternoon. Adams calling out the signals. 1st and 10 for Laurier. Drops back to pass, looks out in the left flat, a wobbly ball, he's able to complete it, and then fumbled on the play. Gaels picking up Curtis McClellan. It's at the 45. He could go all the way. 20, 10, 5, touchdown Golden Gaels. No flags on the play, and the Gaels get the big break that they've been looking for. 11:08 left here in the fourth quarter, and the ball was completed to Joel Wright. Did a good job just holding on to the ball, but then Curtis McClellan, a 54-yard interception return for the senior out of Sydenham High School. And that now gives the Gaels a big lead. We have a replay coming up, and finally a flag is going to be thrown against Laurier for unsportsmanlike, as it looked as though initially James Gaudreau was being mugged on the play, but a great job by the Gaels. As you can see, McClellan moving, and he was escorted by the whole Gaels linebacking secondary core there. A huge break now for the Gaels. Billy said first touchdown wins, and it's the Gaels defense that has the biggest play so far this afternoon's game.
And it comes from a rookie. The Golden Gaels defensive back, Dave Brown, from Frontenac secondary, makes a big play in this ball game to offer up the ball for Kurt McClellan, who scores his second touchdown in as many seasons against the Laurier Golden Hawks, playing defense for them. Huge play for the Gaels. That's great to see the defense with all of their great work so far today. They're going to now get some of the glory for all their labors. Because the offense just hasn't got it done so far, and they've really forced the defense to take the burden of it, and they did a great job there.
So Brown forces the fumble. McClellan, the 54-yard interception return. Levac making the convert, and after the unsportsmanlike penalty, and I'm not sure if there's one or two unsportsmanlikes here, but the Gaels are going to be able to kick the ball away from their own 45-yard line. We've already seen Levac once this year. Has been able to get a single off of a kickoff. That play coming in the game against Ottawa. That, of course, that huge comeback actually is going to be just the one penalty for unsportsmanlike. So Queens are going to be kicking the ball away from center field here. Once again, it was a wobbly pass that time by Adams. He was able to get it out. Wright made the completion, but you wonder if he wasn't able to tuck the ball away before the big hit being made.
Not a crisp throw. Was almost wobbling up to down. It wasn't even a straight throw. So
nice end over end pass, if you will. Okay, kick coming down to the Laurier return man at his own 15-yard line, and a big return coming upfield. Good job shown that time by Ian Logan. Credit him with a 19-yard return on the play. Just a 40-yard kickoff that time by Levac.
Well, I think Joel Wright can take some of the blame because obviously he fumbled the ball, but he didn't have a lot of time after the ball did arrive before Dave Brown arrived and knocked it out. So really, I think part of the blame should go to the throw, not beautiful, and really also credit the defense with a great play.
And a great job done by the Gaels. All the players escorting McClellan as he moved down the far sideline. 54-yard fumble return has now given the Gaels a 12-1 lead here with just under 11 minutes left here in the fourth quarter. Adams up under center. Inside handoff to Medler, and once again he's stacked up immediately. Corey Trudeau, Andrew Pepin, Mark Mitchell in there, James Gaudreau in there, Nathan Haskell in there.
Played a huge part in this game so far, and it's good to see them continuing to prevent big gains from the nation's second leading rusher.
And the job that Gaels interior of their defense has done in terms of limiting Medler's productiveness has forced them to the pass, and that was the big play that the Gaels got last drive. Pass thrown over the middle, complete for about a 7 or 8 yard gain that time. Completed to Brian Hickey. Mark Mitchell coming up to make the stop, and Hickey's going to be close to a first down here. You can credit him with about 6 yards on the reception that time. It's going to bring up 3rd and inches. Well, it might be first down.
Good looking shot at Mark Mitchell there. 195 is a little light. He put on about 25 pounds this offseason to make the switch to linebacker, and maybe line it up at defensive back sometimes during the game, but he's in there today as a linebacker to use the muscle he's got and slow down this Laurier running attack. That was a really risky throw. That middle screen, like you mentioned earlier, the late throw over the middle, and it was Brian Hickey came up with a nice catch, but really that could have gone either way almost.
And again, you take a look at every time Adams throws the ball. There's not the accuracy, there's not the zip that we often see for most of the season from Dommy Dennison. Anyway, 3rd and very short. Laurier again, full house backfield. Handoff again going to Hickey, and looks as though he is going to get the first down. Stopped initially coming up to make a big hit on the play was Andrew Pepin, but I think they're going to credit Hickey with the 1 yard carry on the play here. Laurier is going to be able to maintain possession here. Clock now moving under 10 minutes. Coming up at the end of the game, we're going to have the Seaway Documents Solution Xerox Player of the Game, and James, right now, if you're taking a look at this Gaels team right now, we know what side of the ball the player's probably going to come from. Right now, my pick might have to be Curtis McClellan with that big fumble return.
Huge play. He scored the touchdown. You might consider Dave Brown for knocking the ball out, and maybe even the whole inside 7 for playing so well against the run today.
Adams dropping back to pass, completes it deep downfield. A nice 21-yard pass and run completion that time to Andrew Agro. Another player who's had a big game this afternoon, Mark Mitchell. But another first down for Laurier as they're doing a good job moving the ball here after the Gaels have got their first touchdown of this afternoon's matchup.
Another situation for the Gaels defense. They're playing with the lead, facing a team that's going to try and probably pass the ball with just over 9 minutes left in the game. They'll have to defend the pass and keep them out of the end zone.
Okay, Adams up under center, 1st and 10, fakes the handoff, and he gets hit just as he throws, and that is able to make the pass incomplete, intending the ball that time for Brian Hickey. It looked as though it was James Gaudreau and Craig Thompson in applying pressure. Adams a little bit slow to get up after that big hit.
Two guys who are getting their first major reps at this position for the first time this year, and probably best that they did get pressure on him, because great coverage downfield there. It would have been a very tight throw to fit in there. It might have been a big play by Kurt McClellan or Mark Mitchell on that one.
Keenan Glover checking in, Hickey checking out, along with O.J. Tassi for Laurier. For the 2nd and 10 play, I formation. Glover and Medler. All the Gaels up in the line of scrimmage. Now Pepin drops back, and looks as though it might be a delay of game penalty coming up here. Indeed, that's going to be the call. It's going to bring up 2nd and 15 here against Laurier.
And what do you expect? 2nd and long. Expect Laurier to run either a center screen or a fullback or a running back screen. Haven't seen much else from him, and you can't expect them really to pass the ball extremely well.
So Laurier now, that's the 9th time they've been penalized this afternoon for 85 yards. Laurier coming into the game were just the 4th most penalized team in the OU. Adams in the second half, they're 7 of 12 for 122 yards. Dennison in the second half so far is just 5 of 10 for 40 yards. Adams again dropping back to pass, throws the ball deep downfield, trying to catch up to it on the play is Joel Wright. He overthrown on the play. Kirby Calvert, the Gaels' speedy cornerback, providing the coverage. However, if the ball had been on target, Joel Wright would have been in for 6.
Looked like he got a step on Kirby there, maybe 2. And like you mentioned earlier, the quarterback for the Laurier Golden Hawks, the Chris Adams, just doesn't seem to have the same touch that you'd expect of a quarterback at this level. Isn't able to drop the ball in nicely, and fortunately for the Gaels, punting situation.
Becker on once again. He's going to punt the ball away from the Gaels' 49-yard line. Crawford and McKinnon back to receive right now, standing on their own 10-yard line. Becker angling a nice punt towards the sideline. Crawford comes over, and he tried to pick it up. However, the ball's going to bounce out of bounds at the 12-yard line. So credit Becker with a 37-yard punt.
And almost running Brian into the punting net there on the Gaels sideline.
Taking a look at other action out of town right now. York leads Windsor at York, and that's a big battle right now, as those two teams are right now tied for 4th, along with the Ottawa Ujijis, who are losing at last check 4-0 at home to the McMaster Marauders. Dennison now coming out in the I formation. Weeks and Crawford in behind him. Weeks coming up to the line. Pitch out coming out to Crawford near side. Tries to get up across the 15-yard line, and he takes a big lick. That time, it's going to be Rowan Thompson coming up to make the tackle along with Kevin McNeil. Crawford taking that big shot after just a 2-yard carry. Well, 2nd and 8.
The Laurier front starting to make its presence felt for sure. Getting pressure on Tom Dennison, the quarterback, throughout the game, and now starting to prevent a little bit of that wide run, scraping down the line. The strength of that team and the defense is really up there, and if the Gaels are going to win and continue to move the ball this afternoon, they're probably going to have to defeat those 4 of those 7 players.
Gaels now trying to take some time off the clock here. Clock now moving under 7.5 minutes. Dennison, ball's tipped at the line of scrimmage, and Spear comes back to try and catch it. However, he's unable to do so. Once again, the third knockdown pass of this afternoon is Justin Shackle. So he's had a great day. Again, he knocked down 2 last week, returning one for a touchdown against the Marauders. So Gaels now going to be forced to punt the ball away from deep in their own territory. 7 minutes, 17 seconds left. And again, you take a look at a couple of the guys jogging off the field right now. Brad Smith, one in particular. Frustrating afternoon for him. No catches for the Gaels' top receiver.
Well, I can relate. I've been there. It's not a good feeling when you're the go-to guy for the team and you're not contributing, but some days that will happen, and he'll learn from the experience.
Brokenhill gets away a 42-yard punt to Joel Wright. Wright's able to return the ball back for 3 yards into Gaels' territory. at the 52-yard line. So once again, good field position for the Laurier Golden Hawks here.
Well, the offense not the best part of their team coming in. Has a real challenge here. Has to put up 11 points in 7 minutes while their defense holds Queens to nothing. Bit of an uphill battle. We'll see if they can pull off some points here. They'd have to do it pretty soon if they're gonna make a comeback here.
6:51, 6:50 and counting. Hickey and Medler, the two men in behind Adams here. 3 receivers near side. This is a set they often run inside with. But it's going to be a fake play action, and it's going to be a shuffle pass to Medler. Medler gets up, first down yardage inside the 35, and he's tripped up at the last second that time, making a shoestring tackle on the play for the Gaels is Mitchell Smith. But a nicely run play that time by the Laurier Golden Hawks. Picking up 22 yards on the play that time by Medler, faking the inside handoff, and then doing a shuffle pass to Medler. A play, if you've been watching the expansion Ottawa Renegades play this year, you see them run quite often. The ball now down at the Gaels' 31-yard line. Laurier have been able to move the ball much better than the Gaels in the second half. Adams dropping back to pass, throws the ball out in a flat here, well over the head of Jeff Keane. They're the big return man right now in as a wide receiver. 2nd and 10 upcoming.
Not a very well executed play. Looks like they had that same play they ran earlier with Brian Hickey sliding out of the backfield towards the sideline and then cutting back towards the middle, getting a nice position there, waving for the ball, but the quarterback, Chris Adams, again, not as accurate as you'd want your quarterback to be, but effective so far in using Medley as an outlet.
2nd and 10, 3 receivers near side. Hickey and Medler in the backfield. Gaels coming on the blitz, ball thrown down the middle of the field, and it's going to be picked off! Coming up with the interception that time is Mitchell Smith, who made the big shoestring tackle. Actually, sorry, check that. Number 29, Dave Brown, one of the Gaels' rookie defensive backs. Ball intended that time for Andrew Agro, but another huge defensive play this afternoon by the Golden Gaels. So in the first half, 3 turnovers by the Gaels offense, and now in the second half here, 3 turnovers by the Laurier offense.
Quarterback drops back, throws a pretty nice ball, but the rookie DB is from great position there and makes a huge play for the Gaels and is earning some nominations up here in the booth possibly for the Syria Document Solutions Xerox Player of the Game.
Brown making the hit that forced the fumble that led to the McClellan touchdown, and then the big pickoff there. Handoff to Crawford. Gets some good first down yardage, able to plow his way forward for about 6 yards on the play, and this is not the kind of thing we've seen from the Gaels a lot this year, trying to run the ball and hold on to it and run some time off, but right now, at least so far, getting this drive started very effectively.
Well, it's a great exercise for them. 12-1. This is a game they should be leading perhaps more by if they'd executed a little better today, and they'd probably be disappointed with the performance. But what they can get here is a chance to show their defense and prove to themselves as an offense that they can move the ball when they need to, particularly on the ground, which they haven't had to do so far much this year.
Crawford now on this afternoon's game. That puts him up to 29 yards and just 6 carries. 2nd and 10. Dennison's going to roll out near side. Throws the ball deep downfield for Fleming. Triple coverage again, and ball knocked away once again. And that's about the 3rd or 4th time we've seen that. You take a look at the high side of the field. John Northcote single covered on the play. And again, Dennison trying to force things a little bit too much instead of taking what the defense gives them. And that's the kind of thing that other teams, as they watch this game, are going to see, well, here might be a way to try and, if you have athletic DBs, if you have some athletic DBs and some guys who can put some pressure on, this might be a way you can attack this Gaels offense.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's a great point is that you can use the Laurier defense as a model if you're a defensive coordinator for Waterloo or for the Windsor team. I just, the one thing you have to keep in mind here is that Tom's not having a great day, and he'll probably have a better performance in his next game.
Okay, short punt. Just a 32-yarder coming down to right, and he's going to be able to spin forward for a 3-yard return. Gets the ball inside the Gaels' 45-yard line. Dennison having missed his last 4 throws here. And that one, just like a couple earlier, thrown into coverage. 38.7-yard average this afternoon for the Gaels.
It's a lot of punts today. A lot of punts today. I suspect that both these punters will
be icing the legs. Yep. Offside on the, actually check that, illegal procedure. It looks as though it's going to be against the Laurier Golden Hawks. It's going to bring up 1st and 15. And a out-of-town score from Laurier Stadium in Ottawa. The first place McMaster Marauders leading the GGs 18-2, so the GGs look to be suffering their second consecutive loss, home loss, and that would be the 3rd time they've lost at home this year, getting beaten by the Gaels in week 2 in the big comeback victory. They lost to York last week, and then right now losing to the McMaster Marauders. 1st and 15 right now for the Golden Hawks. Adams drops back to pass, right, catches it, but then McClellan, who had the big fumble return for the touchdown, comes up and tackles him after just a 2-yard completion.
Kurt's having a game himself. Tough to argue between Dave Brown and Kurt McClellan. Veteran showing some good plays there, and similar play that we saw Queens run unsuccessfully with the attempted pass to Ian Fleming by Tom Dennison. Laurier runs what's called a 0-0-7 route, 2 hooks in a corner, flag by number 3, and they throw short and complete the hook.
2nd and 12 upcoming here for Laurier. Gaels showing the blitz, able to complete the ball downfield again to right, again short yardage, and again Curtis McClellan coming up and making the hit after just a 3-yard gain. Making the pressure from the backside that time, Gaels linebacker Adam Ross, and it looks as though Laurier may be going for it here with just 3:10 left here in the 4th quarter. So once again, 3 turnovers in the first half for the Gaels offense, 3 turnovers here in the second half for the Laurier offense. Checking into the game right now, number 88, Andrew Agro, for whom the ball was intended on that last drive when Dave Brown came up with a big interception. 3rd and 10 now for Laurier. 3 receivers high side. Lone man out near side is Chad McAvilia. Pass downfield, and it's thrown to the 25-yard line where there's nary a Laurier receiver intended for Derek Cox. He was well overthrown, so the Gaels now are going to take over on downs. The 4th turnover here of the second half for the Laurier Golden Hawks.
And the woes of having a young or inexperienced quarterback playing continue. We see them there, 2 short passes on 3rd and 15. When I say short, less than 5 yards, probably not what you want to go for. And on 3rd down, you want to get it near. The worst thing you can do is throw an incompletion. At least throw it near where a receiver might make a play.
So now the Gaels coming out. Shotgun formation, inside handoff fake to Crawford. Dennison's going to look to get the ball downfield to Brad Smith, and there's the first reception of this afternoon for the Gaels big play receiver. A 22-yard catch on the play.
You have to think that the head coach and offense coordinator and quarterback both wanted to get him involved, and runs a nice seam route here. Uses his speed, and watch here, he kicks off the line nicely. Tom rolls out to the left and delivers. Catch the ball low, only he can catch that ball. Great job.
Dennison now over 250 yards on this afternoon's game. Inside handoff to Crawford, and he's going to be able to get inside the 40-yard line, down to the 39-yard line. And with that last pass, Tom Dennison has now gone over 2,000 yards this season. That's going to put him up to 2,018 yards. He still needs about 46 to catch up to Chris Hessel to retake the lead, not only in the OU, but also all the way across the country. 2nd and 5 now for the Gaels offense. Crawford, the lone man in behind Dennison. He comes up to the line of scrimmage. Quick hitch pass outside to Smith. Smith's going to try and break a tackle. He does. He's able to get first down yardage. Credit him that time with 8 yards on the reception, and a good job that time for Brad Smith, able to break away from the Laurier defender and move the ball now inside the 35-yard line to the 32. And another Gaels first down through the air. That's 2 first downs through the air now on this drive. So the Gaels going, sorry James, going back to the bread and butter here a little bit on this drive to try and kill the clock here. Now moving under 2 minutes. Dennison again in the shotgun. This time fakes the handoff. Now he's going to take off with it on his own. Makes a great move past the one defensive lineman who's been knocking the ball down all the time, Justin Shackle, and able to move upfield for about a 6-yard carry on the play.
Excellent mobility there from the quarterback. And what you see from Queens now is what you weren't getting out of the quarterback, Chris Adams from Laurier, which is accurate passing on key plays like the hitch screen to the young receiver for Queens, Brad Smith, who hasn't been involved much. And as you saw him jump up after that play, he's excited to be involved. He wants to contribute, and now he's getting a chance to late in the game.
Also seeing a much calmer Tommy Dennison here on this fourth quarter drive. Dennison drops back to pass, looking at the fruit, and just overthrows him. Although it looks as though there might be an interference call here. That would be a tough call on the defensive back that time. Looked as though both players were jockeying, moving down the field. And it's going to be pass interference indeed as the call. It's going to give the Gaels another first down. That's going to move the ball inside the 20-yard line, down to about the 16.5-yard line. Flagged on the play that time, number 21, Ryan Brown. And Brown's been involved in a lot of that triple coverage this afternoon with balls intended for Ian Fleming. That time he gets flagged for the big penalty.
Well, he gets involved a lot, but at 191 pounds, he's not always going to be the guy that you want covering a speed guy playing wide receiver for the Gaels' John Fruit.
10 penalties, 95 yards now this afternoon for the Golden Hawks. It's now the third first down by way of penalty for the Gaels. Dennison drops back to pass, looks out for Fleming, and well overthrown. It looks as though the ball might have just slipped out a little bit of Tommy's arm that time. 1:27 left here in the fourth quarter. Gaels first and 10, actually, so he checked that all the way down. That was a 15-yard penalty, all the way down just outside the Laurier 11-yard line. So again, the Gaels being able to spread it around in terms of who's carrying the ball and who's catching it. 13 players have either carried the ball or caught a pass this afternoon from Dennison.
Sign of a healthy offense, and it looks great for the playoffs. And talking to coaches before the game, they're happy. They got all their tailbacks healthy, lots of depth at receiver, and that's great to see.
And this is a great drive the Gaels have going for them here in the fourth quarter. Dennison pressured, gets away from a couple men, and he's going to be wrapped up once again all the way back to the 18-yard line that time. Coming up with the pressure in the sack is number 59, Tony Gretney. And we talked about all the sacks in the first half, 4. That's just the first sack here of the second half, 5th of this afternoon, as Roger Levac is going to come on to try his third field goal of this afternoon. He had one taken off the board in the first quarter, however he ended up kicking the ball for a field goal in the first quarter. Missed one at the end of the first half, and now this one's going to be spotted at the 25-yard line. Trudeau on to snap the ball, McKinnon to hold. And this would make the score 15-1 if he's good with it. By the time he kicks it away, clock will be under 1 minute. McKinnon puts the ball down. The kick is blocked. And Rowan Thompson picks the ball up at the 36-yard line. He's running across center field. Levac, the lone man, back to try and catch him. And Thompson is going to go all the way inside the 10. 5, touchdown. Laurier Golden Hawks coming up with a 69-yard touchdown. Return of a blocked field goal that time, Rowan Thompson. And instead of it being a big play for the Gaels, that now is going to make it 12-6. And you'd expect Laurier
one thing you noticed
to go for it, and it was a low kick that time by Levac.
Well, one thing you noticed before the kick even is that Sean McKinnon caught the ball as the holder and flipped the ball over once before putting it down. He caught the ball high and flipped it over before putting it down. Probably threw Roger off a bit in a low trajectory. Bad news here for the Gaels. It looks like it's going to be 8-12 as we head into the last minute of the game. Managed to make a game of this.
Laurier will go for the two-pointer here. They'll try and make the score 12-9 and then go for the onside kick.
Yeah, of course.
Chris Adams now checking in along with Brian Hickey, and I would expect to see the ball go to Hickey. He's been the go-to man this afternoon. Or Medler, we've seen the ball go to him on a couple of pass plays here in the second half. So Laurier now going for the two-pointer at the 5-yard line. Fake handoff. Adams throws out and he completes the ball to Hickey for a 5-yard completion that time. Trying to get the pressure that time on Adams. Craig Thompson and Mitchell Smith. However, Adams doing a good job getting the ball away, completing it to Brian Hickey. 5 yards completion for that two-point convert. Now makes the score 12-9. 48 seconds left here in the fourth quarter.
Reach back there, pat yourself on the back. Brian Hickey makes a big play.
I'd like to throw that crystal ball out the window, though. Let's take a look at this play here in the replay.
Quarterback drops back here, and great. Awesome run game. Defense reacts to it, and a linebacker loses his responsibility there, Hickey, and the versatile Hickey makes another contribution to this team. He's really made contributions in several ways today, and they're a huge two-pointer that brings the game within 3 for the Laurier Golden Hawks.
Okay, Becker now is going to move this ball over to the near side hash mark. As Laurier setting up for the short kick here, just 48 seconds left. Remember, the ball has to go 10 yards before Laurier can touch it. If it goes out of bounds, or if Queens can catch the ball before it goes 10 yards. And the ball is kicked, and it is going to go out of bounds. So the Gaels, now, I believe the call here first time is it's a 5-yard penalty.
Illegal procedure, I think.
Exactly, and then they get to kick it again.
It should be an automatic ball possession on the 45-yard line.
Sorry, you're correct. Sorry, quite right. So Gaels will take over now, and it's where the ball is kicked out of bounds. So now they'll take over with the ball on the 52-yard line. So once again, we see the Gaels getting inside the red zone on that last drive. I believe that's about 4 times inside the red zone this afternoon, and yet to get an offensive touchdown from inside the red zone. McClellan's touchdown, of course, did not come from inside the red zone either. 54-yard fumble return. Tommy Dennison now up under center. 47 seconds left. Handoff to Brian Crawford. Both hands wrapped around the ball as Laurier going to try and strip it away. Coming up to make the tackle that time on the play, Matt Kruchak.
Interesting to see, just as they're setting up for the onside kick, we saw Coach Tracy, timeout for the Laurier Golden Hawks here. We saw Coach Tracy run down from his play calling position in the booth to make sure he's on the sideline to prepare his defense properly for what could be a very important drive here if Queens isn't able to get a first down with 44 seconds left.
Okay, so Laurier have called the first of their 2 timeouts. 43.9 seconds left. And you saw in a similar situation with Laurier trying to run the clock out in the first half. They ran it on second down. I'd expect to see the Gaels go to their bread and butter. Although maybe you wonder, though, with only a 3-point lead and the job your defense has done, the only touchdown, no offensive touchdowns this half. You know, the Gaels returning had a defensive touchdown, a special teams touchdown for Laurier. Maybe the Gaels do choose to run the ball here.
As a coach, I think, yeah, go with what works. And Tom Dennison, 3 interceptions this afternoon. Not a great passer rating. Why risk it? Keep the ball on the ground and either get the first down, punt the ball away, and hope that your defense can hold, because they've done a great job so far today.
High formation. Weeks and Crawford is able, takes the handoff, and he busts through for a first down through the secondary, inside the 25 to the 23-yard line. First down, Golden Gaels, and a 31-yard run that time by Brian Crawford.
What a huge play by the explosive athlete, Brian Crawford.
And James, we talked about one thing at halftime, and we talked about crystal balls today. Gaels head coach Pat Sheehan said we didn't have the greatest week in practice. We talked about that at halftime. The Gaels have shown that here this half. He also talked about a guy that he thought might have a big game this afternoon, Brian Crawford. A big run that time by the Gaels, number 35. 102 yards now rushing and receiving this afternoon for Crawford. And thanks once again to Mary Lewis, our stats person, fastest stats woman in the whole country. And Crawford right now, let's just take a look at that carry. That's his longest carry this afternoon. He'd had a 24-yarder earlier in the season.
Well, Mary's just passed me a little note here. It's a private note, so I won't read it in here. No, I will. It has not been an outstanding game for Tom. 21 of 37 passing, 259 yards is nothing to scoff at, but it's not up to his usual.
For Tommy Dennison.
Those aren't Tom Dennison numbers against a defense that is giving them their respect. They are very good defense, but Tom did not perform very well today so far, according to Tom's standards.
And Dennison is just going to hold on to the ball this time as he dives over behind John Landon. And Ramsey Ida on the right side of that Gaels offensive line, picking up a couple yards. Credit Dennison with 2 yards that time on the carry. Clock now moving. Laurier have used all their timeouts. And once the referees whistle this in, clock should start ticking down from 34 seconds left here in the fourth quarter. So it looks as though the Gaels are going to move on to a hard-fought 5-1 victory. 12-9 victory. They'll move the record to 5-1. And the Gaels look as though they're just simply going to kneel on it here. Clock now moving under 18 seconds. And the Gaels may even take, no, they snap it with just 1 second left. And that'll make it 3rd and about 9. So Queens loses a yard on that last play. But clock now being whistled in. The Gaels will just simply let it wind down, and this will be the final play of the game. Gaels are going to hold on to a tough 12-9 victory. No offensive touchdowns this afternoon. As the clock now shows 0, Tommy Dennison snaps it, and the Gaels move to 5-1. But James, one thing that crosses my mind now: a low-scoring victory for the Gaels. And we now take a look at points going against overall. That's going to put them at a bit of a disadvantage when they take a look at the big game that Western had last night. Western right now plus 107. And the Gaels coming into the game were plus 84. That's now going to make them plus 87. So right now, the point differential, given that they don't face these Western Mustangs, for who might have home field in the second round of the playoffs, right now favoring Western.
Well, and you also, if you look at the Windsor Lancers defense, Queens wasn't able to be very effective last year. If it does come down to points for and against, yeah, this game will definitely hurt Queens, and it might affect their national rankings at 12-9 to a 1-4 football team. But I think most importantly is that the takeaway today is that they got the win. They played what I think the coaches will report is a terrible game offensively, and they still won the game.
A very frustrating game, but they still win.
Absolutely.
You know, and we talked again to Coach Pat Sheehan about, do you ever still think of that 67-7 victory? Would you want to try and throw something like that back at Laurier? He said, look, a win's a win. I don't care how we do it, but they get the win. And right now with the final score this afternoon here at Richardson Stadium, the Queens Golden Gaels 12-9. Let's take a look at our Seaway Document Xerox player of the game. And we're still waiting to get the interview downfield. We believe it might be Dave Brown this afternoon coming up with that big forced fumble leading to that Curtis McClellan touchdown.
Well, you got to flip the coin, I think, maybe between him and Kurt McClellan, but really he did make 2 key plays in the game there. One near the goal line, to the second one to break up the intended pass for I can't remember the Laurier receiver, but also, of course, the huge play, the only touchdown for Queens today. Knocked the ball out of the hands of the Laurier receiver, Joel Wright. Big play, and as a young defender, he really proved himself today. And he, starting a corner here on an island, great job. And in terms of the Queens defense, you might consider finding a whole bunch of hats to give to the whole defense, because they played really well today.
So once again, the final score, and we'll be back with the post-game show in a second. The Queens Golden Gaels 12 and the Laurier Golden Hawks 9.
This telecast of Queens Golden Gaels football is sponsored by Cogeco. Cogeco, bringing you the best in local sports coverage.
The internet is a road with lots of interesting places to visit, and kids need guidance when it comes to sightseeing on it. There are places they shouldn't go, information they shouldn't give out, and things they shouldn't buy. Internet providers in the cable industry have partnered with the Government of Canada and Media Awareness Network to raise awareness. These websites have timely and reliable information on safe internet practices for children. There are lots of great places for kids to explore. Just point them in the right direction.
Okay, and I'm down here on the sidelines with one of the stalwarts on the Laurier defense this afternoon, Rohan Thompson. And Rohan, it's a tough way to lose, but you guys have to be happy with the way you played defensively against a strong offense.
Well, defensively, the whole unit did it, from D-line right back to the secondary. Everybody did it. It seems to be the theme of the season. All the games we lost a lot of tight ones, but this team's got through a lot of adversity. We keep plugging, and we just won't give up. But it's tough, but we keep going.
Right. That was gonna be my next question. You guys, I don't think the people watching here in the Kingston area understand the adversity you guys have been through. Your head coach and one of your coordinators can't cross a picket line. Both your quarterbacks are down with injuries. You've had other injuries. Maybe talk a bit about what it takes for you guys to be coming to practice every day with your chins up.
Well, basically, the coaches who are still around and the players who are still around, even the guys who are injured and are not playing, every day we come to practice, even the guys who are injured, and it doesn't matter who's not there. All that matters is who is there, and that's the motto that we stick by. Every man looks at the other person in the eye and says, yo, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it for the other man. And that's just how we go about it every day. Eventually, you keep plugging away, hard work is going to pay off. So that's the theme over there at Laurier right now.
And the hard work showed with about a minute and a half left. You guys could have just let that field goal go. You block it, you scoop it up. Was it a 2-mile run or just 50 or 80 yards? What did it seem to you?
It seemed long. It's been a long time since I've ever had to run that distance, but yeah, the whole time in the huddle, we were just, no matter how much time, until coach says until they say we can't play anymore, we keep playing. And that it just shows up week in, week out, and here was just another example of everybody just buying into coach's philosophy.
Well, you had yourself a great game, Rohan, and the defense did a tremendous job. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, that was Rohan Thompson, and we're just going to try and get some more players. And right now coming in is the fellow that returned the fumble for the key points, Curtis McClellan. Talk to me about the play.
Well, basically, I was just kind of a benefactor in that one. Guy caught it, and Dave Brown made another great play, one of many made in the game, popped it loose, and I just saw it there and picked it up, and I had a barrage of blockers, so I knew I was going to get it in there. So
now, usually your offense puts points on the board. Today, you guys were the offense. Did you realize as the game was going on that you guys were going to have to be solid?
Well, I mean, we knew coming in we had to make some big plays this game, shut them down, and we were pretty fired up, and I don't know, it just all fell into place, I guess.
And what do you take from this to go ahead to Waterloo? I mean, obviously it's a win. It's not a pretty win, but a tough one over a gritty team.
Well, exactly, and next week's going to be no different, and I think now we know that we're going to have to, play our best no matter who our opponent is, and we need to come out flying next week and not give up. So
I'll ask you the same question I asked Rohan Thompson of Laurier, because he had a long return. How long did it seem? A mile?
Yeah, it was. After I got off, I was breathing pretty heavy, that's for sure, so it was nice, though.
Okay, well, congratulations on a great game.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, and we'll see, then we're going to try and get Dave Brown. And the young man, the young Frontenac graduate who produced the fumble that they'll be talking about all weekend and all next week about the key points. Talk about the play.
I don't know, I just saw I saw him do a little quick out, and I don't know, just wanted to be there for the ball, hopefully strip the ball, maybe get a 2-liter pop for the whole thing. That's about it, but just wanted to make the hit first. Thank you.
And he's our Seaway player of the game, obviously, as well, and they want you to put the hat on, but and then you had an interception near the end of the game as well. I mean, obviously for a young guy coming in, starting, big game like this, a one that the defenses were obviously going to decide. Yeah. What was that like?
It was really exciting. I didn't really know what to think. I just saw that ball in the air and just wanted to go grab it, but it was very exciting. I don't know. I liked it a lot. Our defense did an amazing job, stuffed them all day and forced them to throw the ball, and just luckily was there, I guess.
Are you a defensive good luck charm? Last year, your Frontenac defense doesn't give up a point. This year, this defense very tough to score on.
I don't know. I'm good luck charm, but we're good D. I don't know. We do well. Frontenac had an amazing team too, so I don't know. Combination of everything.
And what do you find? Are you learning each week? Obviously, next week you go to Waterloo, and there's another learning experience for you.
Yeah, a lot of learning, like a lot of plays we go over and things like that, like their offense. It's good though. It's not that I don't know. It's a lot of understanding, figuring out the plays and what to do with it. And it's just reaction, a lot of it.
Okay, well, congratulations on being the Seaway player of the game. You had a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was Dave Brown, and we're going to now try and get Andrew Pepin, quickly. And Andrew, how are you? And let's talk. The defense was the story for both teams. Your defense scored a couple of more points than their defense. Talk about how you geared up for this game, because their offense obviously was run-oriented. You shut down Medler.
Yeah, that's right. Well, all week we've had our coaches sort of been scheming and watching the game tape and trying to find weaknesses in the offense that they run. They had a few key injuries as well, which helped out. But basically, we knew sort of the meat and potatoes of their offense, and we schemed our defense to shut that down. And you see it near the end of the game, they had to run like screen. They had to flare out the running backs and pass to them because they don't normally do that. But because we were so prepared for their run plays, they had to revert to that.
Now, obviously, the offense gets a lot of the press with the numbers that Tom's putting up and the points they put up last week against Toronto. But you guys have another solid week. How do you guys do it? Each week, you sort of seem like you keep the offense in the game until they get going.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's just sort of that's how a team functions. You know, like everybody tries to do their part, and you have faith in the other people that sooner or later things are going to come together. And the offense did really well today. Like they pushed the ball, they pushed them around, but they just had a little trouble getting in the end zone. But that's going to happen, and it's our job to sort of step it up and give them the second chance.
I was going to say we probably saw two of the best defenses in the league today on this field.
Yeah, you could say that. Their defense is pretty stingy, but I think we're fairly stingy as well.
I was going to say, but probably not the top one I'm looking at on the Victoria side.
Yeah, that's how we'd like to think so anyways.
And what do you take from this game into Waterloo next week?
Well, Waterloo again is a big run-oriented team, so I think a lot of the basic principles are gonna stand. If we scheme to stop the run, then they should have a lot of trouble against us. We have good pursuit and good team speed, and that's something our head coach, Coach Tracy, has really worked to instill in us.
And just quickly, were you one of the blockers ushering Curtis McClellan down the way?
Yeah, I was shouting encouragement. Anyways, I don't know if I was a big factor, but.
Okay, well, congratulations on a great game.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay. And now, quickly, we're going to bring in Brian Campbell and Crawford. Sorry, I don't. Brian, the key for you guys weren't really moving the football that much, but that last running play where you broke it off and basically salted away the game. Describe the play.
Well, we've been having a lot of luck actually running that play today. It's our 44-0 play, and it's a play where Landon's going over there and blowing some people up, and we had a lot of luck running that play today, and we just ran that play, and it opened up a big hole, and I was able to take off a little bit and couldn't quite get by the last guy, but that's okay, and that we needed that play to seal the game and put it away. One that we should have been able to put away earlier, and just had a few miscues and couldn't quite do it. So.
Now, talk a bit about the Laurier defense. So you guys line up in practice with your defense, which is probably one of the tops in the league. This Laurier defense played very well, and maybe our viewers might not understand how hard they were hitting out there.
Oh, no doubt. They're always a really big physical team. I mean, I've seen them play for quite a few years. Played against them now a couple times, and they're always a big physical team. They hit hard. They're a veteran D. That's their thing. The offense for them, they're not. They're a little bit young, but they're going to be a really good offense in a couple years. So that defense really is the anchor for that team. And they were covering us up. They had 7 DBs out there. The linebackers were doing a great job covering the backs coming out of the backfield. So they did a good job against us today.
Now, quickly, obviously, one extreme to the other. Last week, you put 61 points on the board against a Toronto team that's not that strong. You guys offensively only score the field goal against this Laurier team. Next week against Waterloo, what do you think you need to do offensively?
Well, I think today offensively, we moved the ball. We had a couple times where things just didn't quite work out. We had a couple 2-and-outs, a couple times we didn't get a lot of plays in. But we moved the ball a lot. We were having some trouble converting in the red zone there, and we definitely have a few things to fix up. Got to stop the pressure on Tommy there. We got to give him more time to throw. We got to keep running the ball. I think we're starting to show every week that we can run the ball, and we just got to keep going to it now the more and more we do it. So.
Okay, well, you had a great game, Brian Crawford, and I may have called you Brian Campbell,
That's
but
okay.
Either way, it was a great game.
Thank you very much.
And just looking for Donnie Lewis now and bring in James McLean as well. Start with you, Donnie.
Turnovers.
And I was going to say turnovers, but we saw two physical defenses. I talked to some key people on both those defenses. What can you say about Rohan Thompson?
That was just the first guy I was going to mention, and the stick that he put on Brian Crawford early in the second half really set the tone for the fact that I think Laurier had the balance of the play in the second half, but it comes down to turnovers. And Gaels had 3 turnovers in the first half that almost helped to keep Laurier in the game. 2 big, huge fumbles in the second half. Laurier going in at the beginning of the second half looks like they might try and even take the lead with a touchdown. They fumble the ball. The Gaels managed to come up with the recovery, and then of course the big fumble leading to the Curtis McClellan touchdown, and those two really set it up. And Dave Brown, of course, the job he did, forcing that fumble and coming up with a pick of his own later on. And to me, that was the big difference in the game at the end. There was just the turnovers, because the Gaels' offense weren't able to do anything really in the second half. Tommy Dennison, good numbers yardage-wise, throwing for about 265 yards or whatever it was.
but only about maybe 70 of that came in the second half. Until that final drive, Laurier were really able to neutralize Brad Smith. We saw, though, the job that he didn't get too frustrated, managed to keep his head, made a great catch on the near sideline here, and that went for about 21 yards, converting a first down. And so, as we were saying upstairs, a win is a win is a win, and the Gaels managed to do it without the big offense that they've had so far this year.
Did we see today from Laurier the type of defense that the Gaels are going to see every week the rest of the way?
We did. If you have linebackers like Rowan Thompson, and if you have defensive backs the like of which Laurier has, and if you have those players, yes, you might see that kind of thing, but I don't know that we're going to see necessarily as many athletic defensive players from some of the other teams. Watching Waterloo or Windsor. Waterloo maybe next week. Still a little bit unsure about Windsor, and I have to think in 2 weeks' time that the Gaels are going to come out really jacked up to try and avenge last year's loss against Windsor.
Now, could we be seeing Laurier again in the first round of the playoffs?
Laurier have to win their last 2 games, and it's going to be tough. They've already lost to Waterloo. They're going up against Guelph in a couple of weeks. I believe they still have Windsor. Can't remember who their other matchup is against. But they've got York is their other matchup that they have still coming. So it's going to be tough for them even to get to the playoffs. And you saw the job that Gary Jeffries did, gathering his players around him. That's why there was a little bit of a delay at the end of the game there, and just saying, look, guys, that's another tough loss. Like, how many close losses? That's a 4th loss under 5 points that they've had so far this year. But saying, look, guys, keep your heads in it. We still have a chance. If we win both, good chance we'll make the playoffs. But they're going to have to go on the road to win at least one of those games.
Okay, and bring in James McLean to talk a bit about Queens coming up next week. For our viewers that saw last week's game where 61 points were put on the board, to watching this game where they only put a field goal on the board and really the defense won this game for them. Obviously 2 extremes. A great defense this week. Obviously Toronto struggling. But what do we get ready to see in 2 weeks' time when they come back to Windsor? Is there anything to worry about, I guess?
Well, I think what we faced today, the Queens offense faced, was a really athletic defense. They were really well coached to take away what Queens does well with that cover 2 max. Really, they interrupted the timing of the Queens passing game and made it confusing at times for Tom to drop back and just throw the ball. He didn't get comfortable, I don't think, in the pocket today. Really strong front 4 on the D-line. So I think against Windsor, you won't see the same thing. You won't see a lot of pressure put on by the front 4 and them sitting back as much. They'll probably have to come after Queens a bit as a defense, and there'll probably be more chances for the receivers to get open downfield. Maybe a few more big plays from Queens, and a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. Windsor's offense has probably made some steps. They've got a few more players that might be a threat. So it could be a better ball game because there might be more offense. But I think Queens going blow for blow is a better team if you want to get down to just an offensive battle. So in 2 weeks, I'd say Windsor will be in a playoff race. Right now, depending on today, they're 3-2. They could end up with a better record than Ottawa. So they're going to want the win. So it might be a very big game. So hopefully, it'll be a great turnout and a great game. No rain and no wind.
Okay, and just quickly talk about you played offense for 5 years with Queens. Talk about these 2 defenses. They were unbelievable.
Yeah, and confusing and frustrating to play against for Queens to stop the run all day. There was absolutely the longest run today was I don't know what it was exactly, but there probably wasn't 2 runs of more than 20 yards from Medler, who's the second leading receiver in the country, or rusher. So they played really well. They made plays when they had to, and they bend but don't break. And Laurier, I think, coordinated really well. A lot of really good play calling, confused the offense, and really well executed. Made big plays, and again, bend and don't break. Made for a boring game offensively to watch, but really kept you watching. Much better than last week against Toronto, where we were looking for things to say by the end of the game. So entertaining today, but I think what you take away from it as a Queens team is a win and not a lot of penalties maybe.
Okay, so that'll do it for us here. Again, the final score 12-9, Queens over Laurier. Gaels up their record to 5-1. Laurier falls to 1-5. Our next broadcast will be the game in 2 weeks' time on October 19th. when the Windsor Lancers will be in town. Until then, for Donnie Lewis, James McLean, I'm Bill Miklas. Thanks for watching Golden Gaels football on Cogeco 13.
Sponsorship opportunities are now available on this and other Cogeco 13 programs. Your locally minded business will benefit when its products and services are offered to the 40,000 cabled households from Bath to Gananoque. Call 544-6311, extension 8513 for more information.